It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes. Now don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. Some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. Every day, everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day, everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day, everyone got to hear from Sandra.
All right, good morning, folks. Give me 2 seconds. We're going to play a couple commercials because I've got something here to do. Today is October the 15th. It is the deadline for the, oh gosh, they've changed the name on me, but just watch this commercial. It is the deadline for the national awards. So please be advised that today is it. So if you haven't gotten it in today, I suppose by 5 o'clock today, that's going to be it, folks.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings.
It's our lifeline, connecting East End to West Bay, Kimmebrack to Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands to the world.
It established the route to get our children to school, keep our hospitals powered, and support our businesses every day.
Through hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance, people make that happen.
From the early pioneers who paved the first paths and laid the first pipes,
to the innovators who modernize water, energy, telecoms, ports, and our airport.
they're the quiet hands that build resilience.
And the vision that keeps Cayman going strong.
Now it's our turn to recognize them. Know someone who built, maintained, or improved the Cayman Islands we love?
Nominate them today at gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate today.
The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage is pleased to announce that the nominations for the 2026 National Recognition Awards are now open. Nominate individuals and groups who played a key role in developing the Cayman Islands' physical infrastructure. The categories include landmark leaders, infrastructure innovators, and the builders of Cayman. Visit gov.ky/YSCH. Click on the Nominate button to make a nomination. Here is a step-by-step guide to fill out the form. Before starting, please read the instructions, the award categories, and the eligibility criteria. Step 1. Enter your personal information and select the award category for the person or group you are nominating. Click Yes to confirm that your nominee meets the criteria. Step 2. Enter the nominee's full name, date of birth, and district. Indicate their current status, whether living or deceased, and ensure you have the current contact information for your nominee and their next of kin. Fill out the submission detail and provide any supporting documents and a reference to support your nomination. Step 3. Review your submission and make any changes by clicking the previous button. When you are ready, confirm and agree to the terms and click Submit Form to make your nomination. A thank you notice will confirm that the nomination was received, and a copy of the application will be sent to your email. Your nomination will be reviewed and considered by the National Recognition Awards Committee, and only successful nominees will be contacted and recognized at next year's National Heroes Day ceremony. The deadline to make a nomination is October 15. Remember, you can submit multiple nominations or browse our frequently asked questions by visiting the National Recognition Awards tab at gov.ky/YSCH. We look forward to receiving your nomination.
Folks, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? Let me just get Instagram live going here for Instagram listeners. My apologies for running a little bit late in the studio today. I see you guys messaging me, Sandy, get to this topic, get to that topic. Give me 1 second, honey, child. Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. I'm just looking for some notes. I had to beg Renee to do some notes for me, but give me 1 second. I'm gonna get it done. All right. Hold on. Let me see here. This is what happens when you wake up late in the mornings. Then you're rushing to do everything. Good morning, beautiful people. Who else woke up late today other than me? It can't just be me. I know some of y'all were sleeping in as well. It happens. What can I say? I'm feeling a little bit warm, so I'm going to drop the temperature. Lady T, I'm dropping it in your range. The area that you like it to be nice and cold. Brr. Let me see here. Dun, 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 dun. All right. I need to grab, what am I looking for? Oh, yes. Notes. Honey child. Okay, good. I just need to export some notes from the finance committee. Give me 1 second because we need to talk about your Seaman. Caymanian Seaman are in more danger now than ever before. Now I know y'all are thinking, what? The what? Yeah. That discussion's coming, so give me a second. And also, we got to talk about the Ritz-Carlton situation. A lot of you messaging me, asking me what's going on there with Mark. What's his name? I can never get his name right. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. The general manager of the Ritz-Carlton has basically been terminated. Now, y'all just give me a second, honey child, because we have to break all this down for y'all this morning. Because I know already you're like, what? He's been who? What? Where? When? Yes. Termination. And I think I got the reason why. All right. So while my notes are uploading here, let me just, oh my goodness, what's that rolling on the desk? Okay, 1 second. Yes, just typing some messages here and pull out. Okay. Okay. And okay. Okay, critical. Yes, honey chill. You're probably thinking, Sandy, why not just take a commercial? Let me do that. Let me take a quick 45-minute commercial.
Kapanapanabik oras ay nangyayari dito mismo Cayman Mile Road at gusto naming maging bahagi ka nito. Naghahanap kami masigasig at malikhaing tagalikha nilalaman mula komunidad Filipino gustong tumulong sa amin. Isulong pagkakaiba-iba, kultura at koneksyon komunidad buong Cayman Islands. Kung pinangarap mong mag-host sarili mong palabas, magbahagi nakaka-inspire kwento o magpakita pagmamalaki Pilipino, ito na ang iyong sandali. Naghahanap ang CMR TV ng mga malikhain at independenteng tagalikha ng nilalaman na handang magsama-sama at gumawa ng lingguhang palabas na ipinagdiriwang ang karanasang Pilipino sa Cayman at higit pa. Kaya't kung mayroon kang talento, mga ideya at lakas, gusto naming marinig mula sa iyo. Sumali sa pamilya ng CMR habang patuloy tayong lumalago, kumonekta at kumakatawan sa bawat sulok ng ating masiglang komunidad.
"45 seconds, not 45 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I did not mean 45 minutes. Oh no. 45 seconds. We're back." This person's like, what? 45 minutes? No. Nope. That didn't happen. 45 seconds. I know. It's a crazy morning, but we're going to get into it. All right. Let me grab my video links today. Okay. Oh, Kirks. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks, Renee. She's such a good worker. There's no AI replacing her. I can tell you all that here now. She's on the money. All right, let me quick time go to YouTube and grab that link for you. All of the followers this morning. All right, so we're going to talk about the Ritz-Carlton first. Sorry, I had to mute that. And then we are going to get on to other things. And yes, we do have Dr. Saarah joining us. Happy times. She's so lovely. So we're going to do that. And we're going to do that. So give me 1 second. Before I say anything about the Ritz-Carlton, I do want to check one source about something. Okay. So, it's imperative that we, okay. All right. It's imperative that we cross-check and cross-reference something here this morning. So I am going to get that done. All right. So good morning to my Windsor Park folks, Washington Boulevard. Good morning. And Caymanians in Florida. Those are the three groups every morning that receive the links. So if you're in those groups, you should be getting the show links every morning anyway. And then if you're not, you might be missing out. All right. So I think we've gotten a little bit closer to the truth here in terms of what happened at the Ritz-Carlton. So I'm just going to ask one particular source, and then we can talk about it. But ultimately, this is really about accountability, something that we sit here and talk about every single day, and we demand of our government, who has tons of our money, and, we can't get nothing out of them in terms of accountability, hardly. So, okay. So just a quick announcement, the strategic policy statement for the government will be presented today for Parliament at 2 p.m. Is the is the media able to just show up these days? Because I can't keep up. You know, it's been running in the past, like what Trump does. He dictates who can come and who can't come to Parliament in terms of media, although Parliament is open. Akiva Bush is running that like some kind of ish show. So I'm assuming that Mr. Ezzard is running it more professionally, as I have seen him done in the past. So can media just show up? We don't have to get his advance permission and beg him and promise to rub his leg. I'm just wondering. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Kaboom. All righty. Sometimes nothing is, yep. Okay. Sometimes no comment is the only comment I need. Even when you ask somebody a question and they say no comment, I'm like, thank you. That's all you needed to say, because to me, a no comment is you're spot on, honey child, or you're really, really, really super close. Like you're so close that we got to give you a no comment. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, let's dive into this. So back in June, I received a tip from someone. And you guys know how this works by now, right? I keep telling you, you know, we get tips all the time and people say, Sandy, check this out. And I'm like, okay. But we sometimes don't really have enough to go off of. And so, you know, we gotta keep at it. Ooh, does this person have status? Oh, let me try and see why they're here. Hold on. So I'm gonna read you guys the tip that we received back on June around the 23rd-ish. And then we are going to try to dissect it from there. So last night, you'll see that we wrote this article about the Ritz-Carlton general manager departing amid procurement probe. Something went down. And as I was reflecting back on what historically transpired, I said, wait a minute. The Ritz-Carlton allegations of missing money into the millions of dollars? Why is this ringing a bell in my head? And then it hit me, well, remember that little tips you got 3 months back? And I was like, aha, ding, 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 light bulbs started to go off, honey child. And I was like, oh, yes. And I started to think and reflect on this whole story. And it seems to have really come full circle since June. So we simply did not have enough to do anything in June with this story because, of course, nobody was talking. Let's be honest now. When something like this goes down at the Ritz-Carlton, you know, they're locking it down. I do want to remind you guys that although DART owns the property, so they purchased the property, Ritz-Carlton, which is Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, LLC, they're actually the operators of the property. So they're responsible for the daily operations, hiring people, accounts department, all that kind of stuff, right? So of course, they're the ones who give Mr. Let me get his name. Good Lord. What's his name again? Mark. There's two Marks, you know. The one is with DART and one is Ritz-Carlton. I always get them confused. So hold on. Let me tell you this one's proper name because I definitely don't want to call the other one's name because he ain't got nothing to do with this. All right. So this guy is Mark Langevin. I think is how he pronounces it. General manager at the Ritz-Carlton. Where's Mark originally from? I can't quite recall. But anyway, you know, he's been at the Ritz as the manager for over 14 years. So very long historical employment with the Ritz. And, most people don't really care for Mark, but I guess he gets the job done in the circles that the Ritz cares about. And apparently he's done a sufficient enough job for them to keep him employed on multiple occasions, because he was employed. Dr. Saarah, I'm going to run into a little bit of overtime with my other two discussions this morning. So you can hang tight and get your little coffee and relax, but I'm going to be ready for you in probably about half an hour. My apologies for the late start, but we got some hot breaking sauce this morning. So Mark is, let me just turn on my camera. There we go. So Mark has been with the Ritz, multiple times. I think maybe even before that property. No, well, it couldn't have been, but he was like something manager before. Go check his LinkedIn. Y'all will see it all there. And then he came back. And so, I guess they were more than happy with his service, because he actually did a stint on, let me see where he went, another island, and then he came back. So I'm assuming, they were sending him off to training when he was in St. Thomas. So he spent almost 5 years in St. Thomas from November of 2006 to June 2011. But he was actually originally with the Ritz Grand Cayman from 2004. And he did up to November. He did resort manager from 2004 to 2006, right? So about 2 years and 8 months. So anyway, he left, went to St. Thomas for almost 5 years, and then came back. And for over 14 years now, he's been the general manager at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman. So what I can tell you, unfortunately for him, is it's either two things. Accountability has just come, the long arm of accountability has come down on Mark and has chopped him in terms of his employment, because he should have known this situation. He's French and was at St. Thomas Ritz for years. Yes. Okay. So let me tell you what I believe this morning to be as close to the truth as we're going to get. Yes. Because like I said, no, you're not going to get any official statement. The Ritz is not going to make a statement where they're like, oh, this is what went down, Sandy. We're going to confirm all of your investigations. So this is what my sources tell me, and I believe this is exactly what happened. So the original message said, rumors are, this was June, rumors are the whole purchasing department has been suspended and is under investigation. And they had sent a previous message like, have you heard what's going on at the Ritz, Sandy? What's the sauce? Is under investigation because the head of the department has stolen millions from Ritz, still trying to get more info on it, but no one's really talking about it. So, I kind of sent this to a few of my sources, tried to feel them out, didn't get anything. In fact, now that I look back on it, they didn't even respond. That should have been, I'm so busy sometimes that I really do miss certain things, but that should have been a clue right there. Like, if it wasn't true, they would have said, no, Sandy, this is definitely not true. Yeah. When it's true, that's when they say no comment or no comment. You kind of hear that pause and then that virtual pause and then that no comment afterwards, right? So I didn't chase it up at the time, but there are really times when you just have to allow it to develop on its own, right? So you can't force a story. It's like baking that cake in the oven. You got to just wait until the cake is finished. If you force it, turn up the temperature too high, sometimes you end up burning and spoiling your cake, So you want to take your time with it. Anywho, I took my time and I said to myself, what we're going to do is we're going to wait and see exactly what's happening with this, because what I have learned in this space, and I suppose I knew even before, is you cannot hide anything forever. Life is just so funny because things just eventually come to the surface. They have a way of boiling to the surface. And, this is just the cycle of life, to be quite frank and quite honest. You cannot hide things forever. And no matter how good you are and how stealthy you are, eventually things will come out in some form or another. You mightn't get the full story, but you're going to get enough of the story to be able to go, uh-huh. So anyway, I think now we've gotten as close as we're going to get to the story. So yesterday, of course, I got confirmation that Mark was no longer employed. I got the letter. I saw it with my own two eyes from the Ritz, and I said, "Okay, something has definitely gone down." Because listen to me, you don't terminate, because and sadly that's what this is. You don't terminate someone like Mark without and with no notice, really. You don't do that without something having really gone on. Like, this has got to be so bad, because when someone has spent 15 years with you almost, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt on so many different fronts. You're going to be like, dude, take a mental health day. If he comes in there and blows up at staff, you're going to do the most. I'm sure Mark must have status by now. I'm sure he must. I mean, I don't know precisely, but I would be surprised if he doesn't. So yeah, these are the things that you are really going to, you're going to work with him. If he needs anger management counseling, if he mistreats a few Caymanians, you'll even look the other way, because he is that valued as an employee, right? Well, when it comes to people's money, organizations like the Ritz-Carlton LLC are less likely to play around when it comes to their money, because, these businesses need money to operate. And what can I say except, they're not going to, let me see, immigration, the accordance of Section 2, granted Caymanian status. Okay, we're going to get to this one here in a second. Give me a second here. Just grabbing my pages, doing a little bit of on-the-moment research. So yeah, I think he would definitely have status by now. I'd be surprised, like I said, if he doesn't. But anyway, I need to talk about somebody else here. Someone by the name of Drago Bedek. He was the director of purchasing at the Ritz-Carlton. Trying to find a picture of him to see exactly what he looks like. Anybody get a photo they can shoot me real quick of Drago? Very unusual name. So yes, I bet you he's already done a pretty good job of scrubbing himself from the internet. Can't seem to find any pictures. Let me see. Sometimes you can't completely scrub yourself despite your best efforts. What is his last name? Is that Dutch or somewhere in that area of Europe? Let me see here. All right, let me see if we can find him. Drago. Does he wear glasses? Oh, yes, I have him here. Like I said, you can't hide forever. Honey chill. All right, so I think this is him. Was that an older picture? I've got one picture that looks nothing like the other one. So I'm like, oh, is that an older picture? All right, so I believe this is him. It says phone number, Ritz-Carlton. Yep. Okay, perfect. Got him. All right, so this guy here, Drago, seems to be central to the source that I'm about to give you this morning, because he was head of the purchasing department. Now, funny enough, he's done a pretty good job, because I don't see any LinkedIn accounts. I don't see anything like that. So Bobo has definitely ran off, which is unusual for professionals, because, I guess he figured CMR would have been looking him up soon enough. So that was his best plan, is to just disappear. Nothing on LinkedIn, nothing on any professional site, to really see who he is, what his work history has been. But I suspect that he's probably been the purchasing person at the Ritz now for quite some time. Let me see here. Anybody knows how long he's been at the Ritz? Let me see if I can. Man, this is like deep, deep scrubbing is what he has done. I don't know how long he's been at the Ritz, but we'll get some information. Don't worry about it. I believe he is. Anyway, he was director of purchasing, and so is he from Maryland? Is he from the U.S.? All right, we're gonna do some more digging after the show. But anyway, somebody says, "Oh, I love rich people." Sus, I know. It shows you that they're no more likely to commit a crime or less than some of us. But most of their stuff can be financial related because they just can't get enough. They're greedy. Anyway, he has director of purchasing, and his name now is tied directly to the story with Mark. So you have Mark on the one hand, who is going to, be the fall guy because somebody has to be held accountable. That's Mark, in case you've seen him around hobnobbing all over Cayman. And this guy is Drago. So what is the connection? Here's the sus. Thank you so much for my sleuths. Apparently, Drago was running a scam, says one person. This is what my sources revealed to me late last night. I'd gone to bed already. Made an intermediary company. And this lines up with other stuff that I've heard, right? So when I got the letter saying, he's no longer with the Ritz, he's gone, terminated, basically. And I'll show you this. So hotel leadership update. Keisha Parcell, she is the head of she's running things over there. What? Interesting. Anyway, this correspondence went out that basically said effective immediately, he was out of there. And, like I said, when you see an email like that, something's definitely wrong. So effective immediately, Mark Langevin has parted ways with the company and is no longer serving as general manager of the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman. He's been a guiding force, a mentor, and a steady hand through our challenges and triumphs. His commitment to excellence, his care for our team, and his passion for hospitality have left a lasting mark in our culture and our success. This is like ChatGPT helped her write this. We're grateful for his leadership, dedication, and many contributions during his time with us, and wish him all the best in his future endeavors. But what they don't say is you don't just up and fire someone that is doing a perfectly good job and you're really happy with. You fire someone when you hear that somebody took over $20 million from the purchasing department by setting up, and this is what my other sources confirmed as well, setting up a fake company, an intermediary company, and pushed all of the purchases through that company. So when investigations started back in June, I suspect an entire department was put on leave while they continued to investigate. He absconded and has been, basically, I'm sure, left Cayman. Boy, they have the best luck for being able to run away. And the sources say that this has been going on for years. And they even say that Mark's house and other items were purchased through this, and he may not have said anything. So there's an ethical issue. Now, what I will say is, I suspect if the Ritz believed, follow me here, that what he did amounted to criminality, perhaps they would have contacted the police and have them take it over. So Mark is probably in that gray area where they don't know how much he knew. Okay, they don't have any direct evidence that he was directly involved, that he maybe even directly benefited from it, that he was involved in the scam. But then there's that gray area question that, hold on, you don't take over $20 million from the Ritz-Carlton through a very elaborate scam, and you do that by yourself. Either people were turning a blind eye, the same thing I say about all of our government agencies, HSA, Cayman Islands Tourism Attraction Board. There's only two real possibilities. You turn a blind eye, right? Or you are just really, really dumb. And nobody believes that these people in senior management positions got there by being that dumb. Okay. So, that's your two possibilities. And you can pick whichever one you want to believe here about Mark, but it's the same thing with the board at the Cayman Islands National Authority. The same thing I've said about the board at Health City, Jesus Christ, not Health City, the board at HSA, Health Services Authority. Somebody's got to change their name. That they must have, come on now. There's just too much going on there that you cannot convince me that somebody didn't know something. And so again, my belief is that Mark, whatever the Ritz management has thought about this, they didn't have anything direct. And so instead, they say, you know what, Mark, even if you weren't involved in this, you should have known, or you should have seen some signs. And so you got to go bobo. This is the end of the road for you. So somebody says that he wasn't their favorite person. What was it about Mark that people just didn't like? I think it was the arrogance. Nobody seemed to really like Mark all that much, really. But they say that, I guess he got the job done, so they tolerated him. Drago was head of procurement, and they were too tight. Okay. So there you have it. That's the source. And I think that that's as close as you're going to get. That, in my opinion, is probably about 97% accurate. We've got more details that we can definitely fill in the blank, so to speak, right? So this is what has happened. Where has Drago ran off to? Over $20 million. Child, if I were the Ritz-Carlton, I'd be calling the popo. They're not the best at investigating, but I would still call them and say to them, help us, get him back. That's a lot of money, wow. Well, what can you do? Where's Drago's friends? Has he just completely gone? Has he been in contact with any of you guys? Is his wife's name Leanne Drago? No, that's not his last name. His first name is hold on. So I don't know, but he's done a pretty good job of disappearing, I must say. I don't know where he's gone, but online he has really done a fairly good job of removing his what do we call his online footprints. So there you go. That's the story. And so poor Mark, most people aren't really feeling too sorry for him, but when something like this goes down, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in terms of future employment opportunities? So here's the best part. We definitely know that Drago has status. He got it back in 2004. So he's Caymanian. Yay. Do not put that one on us. So he has it. And I'm pretty sure that Mark probably has it as well. I'd be surprised all this time that he was here if he didn't have it. So let me see if I can figure out when he actually got it. But yep, Drago has it. And so he's off and running. Let me see if I can find out when. Yeah. So there you go. So other people commenting on this. Let's just have a few comments and then we're going to move on to Seaman's discussion. And then we're going to welcome Dr. Saarah in the studio, who's patiently waiting for us to introduce her and to get started. This is an exciting day to have Dr. Saarah in the studio. She is, I don't want to say replacing Dr. Carlos, because of course there is no replacement for anyone, but she is our in-house. Ooh, Why did my dog just walk in the studio and the studio doors open? Miss Stacy. Somebody didn't realize Zeus. Zeus is so smart. Miss Stacy. Oh, Lord. Okay. Poor Zeus. He's like, you guys are not going to keep me from my mama. He's sitting right by my feet. Let me just try to get her to close the door for me. Just close the door for me, please. Yes, ma'am. Zeus knows how to open doors. He hasn't gone for a walk yet? He did? I think he just wants to hang out with me. He's so sweet. He's the sweetest little doggy. All right. But yes, he knows how to open doors now, including the sliding door for the patio. Like not the big glass one, but the mesh. All right. So someone said the following. No, Sandra, exclamation point. The DART group does not turn their staff over to the police. If you look back, the man who ran DART Private Loan Company, Active Capital, I believe, that's the name, was caught stealing and misappropriating funds and even built his house in Salt Creek with DART money. The DART group took legal action and froze his in-island assets to recover as much as possible, and he moved to somewhere in Florida with no fanfare. Oh. Maybe this is how rich people do it. They just, they're going to get their money back and just keep it moving. I mean, yikes. Well, I mean, there's some accountability because he's fired, but I really do think that, more should be done in cases like this. All right. This person says he may have gotten PR if he's been here for 15 years without a break in his stay. Yeah, listen, of course he's gotten PR at this stage. I'd be shocked if he doesn't have it, because surely immigration hasn't been approving work permits all this time. I would just have to get the date that he got it. But yes, I'm pretty sure. Well, good luck to you is all I can say. Like I said, I don't know who else is going to be hiring him. It'll probably difficult to go from the Ritz-Carlton to anything else in Cayman. So he may have to move overseas. And I mean, it's unfortunate, really, if he didn't have any direct, dealings with this, because at the end of the day, even rich people need a job. They need a source of income. So I'm not hating on people just because they're rich. I think this is very unfortunate. All right. Other people commenting. They say, with Mark gone, perhaps now young Caymanians can get a chance. Too many examples of returning Caymanian students not getting through the door. Well, another commenter said this. Hey, Sandy, same thing at the Kimpton Hotel, same department. Both were being investigated at the same time. 2 got fired from the same department by Kimpton, 1.5 million missing. What? Oh my God. What a hot mess. Damn. Crazy. Hot mess. That's a lot of money. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Well, yikes. They better clean up that purchasing department, honey child. These are the types of things that, quite frankly, though, you do not do. You don't set up these intermediate fake shell companies in order to funnel any business through. And you know what is crazy? I'm pretty sure that this guy here, Drago, was making more than enough money. Like, I don't know why he would have had the need to do this. And this goes back to even when we were talking about Canova and other examples of excessive greed, right? I mean, there just comes a point in life when you have to recognize that there is such thing as enough. And you don't have to steal from people. You don't have to set up, fake companies and funnel money through and these very elaborate schemes in order to make even more money. I mean, there are legitimate ways. If you want a side hustle, if the DART organization is not, let me be clear, Ritz Carlton, not the DART organization, but if Ritz Carlton is not, paying you enough, you need to negotiate with them. What you don't do is you don't steal money. So there you have it. All right. I don't even know. That's just a hot mess. So listen, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull in Dr. Saarah now. The Seaman's conversation is one that's probably going to take more than 10 minutes. But I want to talk about the ongoing hemorrhaging of money here in the Cayman Islands and what we really need to do in order to curtail this, right? Because whatever wastage we have in government in terms of money, every single one of us should be, as Caymanians and even as residents here, should be concerned about it. Because if government is wasting money, that means that there are other areas and there are other things that unfortunately are not getting done. There's no budget for, listen, even in private sector, you know how much $20 million is? Even to an organization like the Ritz Carlton, that is a lot of money. So you have $20 million disappear. And I can tell you that, there's lots of things that they may have wanted to do. I mean, they did a recent renovation that was amazing a few years ago, but who knows, even paying staff more money. There's lots of things that would have impacted their bottom line. Hey, good morning, Alfonso. We gave you a big prayer and a big shout out yesterday, wishing you well with your surgery over at Health City. And it looks like it must have went really well. You're already up this morning bright and early in recovery mode. So that is so good to see. Another person writes, good morning. There are multiple complaints about Mark, even to certain MPs from Cayman, and they did nothing. Plus, Mark was flossing and no one queried that there's no way he could be living that lifestyle on his GM salary without supplementing. Well, he ain't going to be flossing quite at that level anymore. But I mean, I don't know. Some people floss, and as we say, y'all know what flossing means, right? It's just one of those things where a lot of people try to live above their means, and sometimes they floss by getting into excessive debt. They go and they borrow, they overborrow at the bank and stuff like that. And it's never a good look. So what can I say except, yeah, what a hot mess. Dr. Saarah Nichols is going to be joining us. And I want to welcome this beautiful, and no, she's not a Caymanian. She just looks the part. Good morning, Dr. Saarah. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sandy. Good morning.
Yes. So thank you so much, first of all, for joining us. And Dr. Saarah, hopefully, is going to be a long-standing part of the Cayman, the CMR TV content creators family. That's a mouthful, but she is joining us here from Tampa. And we want to learn a little bit about Dr. Saarah. I want to make sure I get it right because, easy to mispronounce it, I think. But she is actually in Tampa, and we're going to learn a bit more about her practice and what she does there. And of course, what she is going to be doing here on CMR TV. So again, welcome. Everybody, please give her a virtual good morning, showing her Caymanian manners. We are so pleased to have you here with us. And yeah, let's just jump in. Tell us a little bit about who you are. When people think of you now, of course, I know your mom, and that's the most important job in the world. But professionally, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So personally, I am a mom. I am a Jamaican-born woman. I come from my parents. My dad is actually Caymanian. He's half Caymanian, half Jamaican, and my mom is Jamaican. So a little bit of a connection there.
Yes, I love it.
I moved to the States when I was about 10 years old, and ever since I was a little kid, I always had a fascination for human behavior. And honestly, like you, Sandy, I love the sus. So, I always love to know the personal things that are going on in people's lives.
Yes.
And so I developed a passion for psychology. And so now I'm a psychologist here in Tampa, Florida. I took over for Dr. Garcia in his practice, actually. And so that's how we know each other. And so I am the owner of Tampa Counseling and Wellness. And we are very much like a family group practice here. So we see moms, dads, sons, brothers, we see everyone. And our goal here, we say where Tampa comes to heal. And my hope for my channel is going to be where Caymanians can come to heal, can come to talk about the things that are going on in their lives and the things that they want to heal from in their lives.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic, and we are so happy. Like I said, you're not really replacing Dr. Carlos as such, but you're going to be our resident talk show host around all things mental health and wellness. And so, Dr. Saarah has lots of experience. She looks young. So, how many years have you been practicing, Doc?
Oh, I've been practicing for over a decade. I know I look young. The skin looks nice. It's my skin routine. But I've been practicing for over a decade. I specialize in trauma. And so I worked with the VA, the Veterans Hospital, for a very long time. And so I specialized in trauma there, in childhood trauma, in combat trauma, sexual trauma. But I also have worked a lot with attachment. And so how people attach to their parents. Alcohol and substance use is what I did a lot of my research on when I was in graduate school. So I'm across the board, have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. And of course, everything that you've mentioned in terms of your areas of experience and speciality, PTSD, anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, trauma related, issues, all something that people here in Cayman, just like I guess everywhere else in the world, really, really suffer from and they struggle with. And so it's good to have someone who they can, talk to. So we're going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to remind our listeners how the format is going to work. So yesterday I did give you guys an update on where we are with CMR TV. Everything is coming together quite nicely. And pretty much it's just the website. The content creators are ready. They have their content ready. It's just really the website and some of the technical back end stuff that we wanted to make sure was up to the standard that we had put in place as a development team. So Dr. Saarah will be joining us here in CMR during the morning show for about a month or so, just so that you guys, it's like a soft introduction so that you can get used to her a little bit. And then she's going to break out and have her own show that's going to be Monday. It's a weekly show, and it's going to be Mondays at 3:00. So there will be times when she will be engaging with you, taking your questions and your calls. And on those days, I will join the days that she's live like that. I will join Dr. Saarah so that you can call in on the show through the phone line here. That'll save you, Doc, from having to get all sorts of fancy equipment and a Cayman number.
Okay.
But yeah, we've got all the technical stuff worked out for her. And then there'll be other times that she'll be sitting down, perhaps interviewing, other experts in the field. Maybe she's got, a survivor in Tampa who wants to talk about their experience, who wants to talk about their trauma, or you might just see her kind of in her studio space by herself, talking about some of these things. So Faith and Hope says, good morning, Dr. Saarah. Wagwan, Doc, from the JA side of you.
Wagwan.
Yes, we love it. We love it. We love it. So Shaka Zulu says, there you go. That's why she looks so Caymanian. So let's talk about because Caymanians, we have a saying here, and I'm sure Jamaica probably has that as well. We want to know who you for, who your mama is, who your papa is, like who you for. So tell us a little bit about your Cayman connection, because you said your stepfather has a Cayman connection. Tell us a little bit about that, because that is so cool.
So his mother is Caymanian, and so he grew up with a lot of Caymanian traditions, and then his dad is Jamaican. And it's so funny, that you all are saying that I look Caymanian, because I actually look a lot like my stepdad's mother. When I used to spend time with her, people would think that I was her grandchild.
That is so funny. Yeah. So we were just talking about this the other day. I think it was maybe this week, saying, do Caymanians have a look? Because our common friend, Dr. Mark Gadari, has said this to me before. He's like, I think you Caymanians all kind of have a look about you. Like, he comes on the island a lot and he teaches Caymanian students. And he's like, yeah, y'all have a look. So you have the look too, girl. You fit right in.
Right on. Love to hear it.
So Shaka says, welcome, Doc. So again, we're happy to have the Doc here. We're gonna do a soft introduction today. So no hard questions. We're not gonna go too deep in all the emotional trauma stuff here today, but don't worry, that'll probably be next week. So you said that you've had a lifelong love of really helping people. You're naturally inquisitive, but you want to know what's going on with people. Where do you think that comes from? Have you ever thought about for yourself, why am I just so inquisitive?
I think, how some people say that, like, they're dog people or they're cat people. Like, I am a people person. I love connecting with people. I think it's one of my strongest passions. I always want to know the deep things that are going on with folks. I come from a big family, and we've always been very, like, strong communicators and connectors. And so I've always found a love for just knowing what's going on with people. And I think that there's something so powerful about hearing someone's story and being able to hold space for someone. It's a special gift and a special honor when someone trusts you with
Yes.
special parts of themselves that they wouldn't trust with someone else. And so for me, it's almost like a high, like a very strong, passionate high, for when I have been able to connect with someone in that way, and when I've been able to establish trust with someone in that way, and when I have been able to help someone heal in that way. And so when someone comes to me with a problem, I am automatically already thinking about, how can I help this person? Where is this story blocked? Where is their story blocked? Where is their mind blocked? And how can I help them unpack that and heal it? And knowing that I can get someone there is just one of the most fulfilling feelings that I can get. Some things that people get from, like, getting presents or, getting money, I get that from helping people in that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, I love it. I love it. And I think that in this world, I have a saying that I acquired from someone else who was a Eastern medicine person, and they said, you're right where you're supposed to be, and that you're on the right path in life when you get this kind of high, when you get this type of enjoyment. So even for myself, I mean, I love, like, every day what I do doesn't really feel like work, because I'm just that into it. And so I think that that's amazing when a therapist is that passionate. Now, I was looking at some of your areas of speciality, and I noticed in your bio it says that you're biracial. Can you tell us a little bit about I know obviously you're from Jamaica. What part of Jamaica are you from?
So I was born and raised in St. Andrew in Kingston. I am biracial. My dad is actually German. My biological father is German. I've never met him before, right? So maybe that's a part of the reason why I love humans so much, is like my attachment stuff. So I've always had a fascination with attachment. But my biological dad is from Germany, and my mom is my Black side of my family. And so I've always grown up with, like, mostly Black folks, but similar to K-Man, everybody in my family is biracial. We're like a giant tan rainbow in my family, because, there's so much mixing that goes on.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's also interesting that maybe that is part of where your curiosity comes from about people as well. Have you ever met your dad? I'm just curious.
No, I haven't. I
No.
have never met my dad. But it's one of those things, Sandy, where I don't feel at this point in my life that I've missed out, because I had a great
Such a
grandfather.
fulfilling childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, and my stepdad was a big part of my life, and still is a big part of my life. And so it's not something that I felt like I missed, but I'm sure, as with everyone, it's a curiosity that's there. It's like, I could have known German, but
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel that too because there's someone in my life that I don't have maternal attachment to, and a lot of people are like, oh, you should. I'm like, well, you know, I had somebody else fill that role, and I think when you have someone else fill that role and they did a pretty decent job, you're not longing for anything. So there's
Right.
there's not that longing. So I can relate to that as well. Marika says, loving your passion, Dr. Saarah. You're already connecting with the audience. Looking forward to your show. Yeah, and I mean, these are things that as Caribbean people and non-Caribbean people, we talk about. And I love how you say in your bio that you firmly believe in incorporating cultural responsiveness into therapy to help your clients. And so we do have certain things that we think are unique to us as Caribbean people. And I always say, there's like a base, like human beings have a lot in common, a lot more than we have in terms of differences. But we always, and it's just human nature, we always try to look for what separates us, like why are Jamaicans Jamaicans? Why are Caymanians Caymanians, And I think that sometimes we need to kind of come back to the table and realize that we're all human beings and we all have, yes, unique experiences, but at the same time, there's also a lot of collective experiences. Like a lot of us can relate to having one-parent households or having not ever met, a father and mother, and you had step parents that, just fill the gap. Having very culturally diverse families, like you said, having a rainbow, collection in your family. So a lot of us can relate to those things, but there is something to still be said for how important culture is when it comes to an individual's identity. So what do you think about culture? Now you're going to be here sort of having exchanges and intermingling very, very closely through the show with Caymanians. Caymanians have very, very strong connections to Jamaica. Over half of our population here is actually Jamaicans. So you're more likely than not to come in contact with a lot of Jamaicans as well. Maybe they've just been in Cayman a long time, or they've, married into Caymanian families. So there's that, diversity there. But what does it feel like to kind of come back to the Caribbean, even if it's virtually?
I love my country and I love Caribbean folks, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we move. I would completely agree with you, Sandy, that there are universal experiences that we all have, right? There are universal experiences, relationships that we have with our parents. There are universal experiences that we have in building relationships, in building families, in building love, in fear. But there are very specific things that come with every culture. And for me, culturally responsive care is about curiosity. So something that I think is going to be important for me in any setting, but particularly, especially in this one, is to be curious, right? To understand the lens that Caymanians are coming from. My assumption is not going to be like it's always like Jamaica, but I'm so grateful that I have that perspective from my own upbringing, from my own family, that I can bring. And so that there will be some more automatic knowing to the shared experiences that we tend to have in our cultures. It has always been a dream of mine to serve the Caribbean population because I always say, if people say, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do with your time? And I always say I would go back to Jamaica or I'd go back to the Caribbean and I would give back to my people because there's so much trauma that has come through our shared lineage. There is so much there are very culturally specific pockets that can be very healthy and some that can be very unhealthy. And so I think unpacking our culture and the way it helps us and the way it hurts us is will be a really big part of this.
Yeah, no, I love that because, when we talk about, child sexual abuse and trauma, a lot of it comes down to culture. One of the things, sadly, in the Caribbean is we tend to almost view children as, instead of viewing them as children, we want to view them as adults. So when you have a teenage girl, engaging in inappropriate behavior, we don't look at why that would even be happening. Like, who's been grooming her? How did she get here? We actually want to victim blame her and put that whole responsibility of a illegal relationship, and not just unlawful and illegal, but morally wrong relationship that she's having with the adult. We don't want to hold the adult responsible. We're like, oh, she too fast and she too this and that, and it's like, huh? And so we think the way that we think and the way that we process even victims is, quite shocking. One of the things, and again, we're not going to get too deep. We're going to gloss over some of these, but we will definitely be coming back to these in much, deeper context. But one of the things that you also deal with in terms of trauma, sexual trauma, is actually male sexual trauma survivors. And you have here the LGBTQ plus, and what is BIPOC individuals?
So that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right. But even this concept of male sexual trauma survivors is something that we never want to talk about. We don't even believe that they exist here in the Caribbean. We don't want to talk about the LGBTQ plus community if we can help it. So what has your experience been dealing with those groups, and specific to people of color? That must have been very interesting.
Sure. So male sexual trauma, even within itself, it's a very unique thing, because there are things culturally that men hold very close to themselves, things that help them feel in power, in control, that get compromised when they've experienced something like that. So things like questioning sexuality, questioning their manhood, things like that, that are very unique to the male population that need to be unpacked when they've after they've experienced a sexual trauma. So that is one of the very unique ways that I approach therapy with a man versus a woman. There's just different ways it messes with the mind when it comes to the different gender that you're experiencing. When it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, I mean, trauma can look 100 ways. I am reluctant to, stereotype people into one category or another. But people in the LGBTQ plus community experience traumas just culturally in general, particularly in the Caribbean. Because our cultures are not very friendly to those populations, and so just the needing to hide who they are, and just the fear of someone finding out can be a big struggle within those populations.
All right. Folks, let's remind you that the phone lines are open if you want to just say good morning to Dr. Saarah. Like I said, we're not going to, get too deep today as her initial introduction to the program, but 936-2626. Caymanians really believe in manners and saying good morning. So I'm sure right about now, my phone lines are going to be blowing up, and you guys will be calling and welcoming Dr. Saarah to the show and to the CMR family. So some very, very interesting, background and information here. You were pretty young when you left Jamaica, 10 years old. It kind of reminded me of my journey in the sense that I left Cayman when I was 9. But what are your memories of living in Jamaica at the time? I'm going to ask you just some fun questions now, but what's like your best memory of living in Jamaica?
I have so many amazing memories about living in Jamaica. My mom came up to the States to go to school to finish her education, and so I lived with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles who were around my age. So I mean, my fondest memories were growing up in a big family, in going to prep school in Jamaica. We're big runners in Jamaica, as you probably very well know. So fun fact, I was the second to last slowest person in my entire school, but I never let that last slowest girl beat me to it. So
So you didn't get the Bolt running jeans anywhere?
I did not. I have 2 left feet. I gotta tell you, it's not even a joke. I really do.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
But just eating good food, eating drum pan chicken off the side of the road, going to Duns River Falls. honestly going to church with my family on Sundays, and then going to the Keys after, and going to swim and eating fish from, just fresh caught that day. We do that a lot in Jamaica. We have the fresh caught fish right on the beach that you can buy and eat.
Oh, we know. When you come
Yeah.
to man, you'll see.
I had an amazing childhood. I couldn't 5 stars, Jamaica is
Yeah.
a really an amazing place to grow up.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Let's throw out some rapid fire questions. All right. Ackee and codfish versus let me see here now. What's another popular dish in Jamaica? Okay, ackee and codfish versus jerk chicken.
Ackee and codfish.
Ackee and codfish. All right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, ackee versus curry goat's gonna win for me.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you love your curry goat.
I'm gonna have it today. Just
Is that then your favorite dish, you would say, if you had to pick
by
one
far,
favorite dish?
for sure.
Curry goat. All right. Lazy Sunday afternoons or Sunday afternoons by the river?
Ooh, that's rough. Maybe I would say lazy Sunday afternoons. I gotta tell you, I love a good book. I love snuggling up. I love to chill.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Granny's cooking or your mom's cooking?
Oh, you're trying to start a fight, Sandy. I see it over here. I plead the fifth. I'm not taking that one.
Mom might be listening. She's like,
Right.
oh no. Oh, that's too funny. Right. So you went to USF?
I went to UCF over in Orlando.
UCF. Okay. All right. All right. So, and then you did your PhD remind me where that was.
I did my PhD in Southern Mississippi.
All right. So I'm gonna have to ask you then, Florida versus Mississippi.
Oh, that's not even a competition. Florida all the way. When I was in Mississippi, I couldn't wait to get back to Florida. I used to drive 14 hours back down to South Florida just for a weekend to be there.
Wow. Mississippi must be very interesting. I don't think I've ever been, even when I lived in the States. But, even when you start to get up into North Florida, you kind of started to get some Mississippi vibes in Tallahassee. So yeah, I can only imagine that must have been interesting. How long were you at school in Mississippi for?
For about 4 years, I was up in Mississippi, and you got to survive when you're in graduate school. I learned how to line dance and two-step and do all of these country dances while I was there. But there is something to be said, going back to culture, about being around your people, about being around your culture, and I really did miss that. I think that was probably one of the hardest things when I was in graduate school. I struggled with my own depression when I was in graduate school, when you're under so much stress. But just, you can forget who you are if you're not around your people enough. And so for me, it was really important to go back home every once in a while, just to remember there are people who love you, who know you, who are like you, who connect with you in a way that just certain people just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Wow. When you talk about, you just reminded me of this idea, and I was saying this to someone a couple months ago. We were having a conversation, and they were saying that they've had some struggles, like they were very, very involved in the church, and then when they came out as being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, they were kind of, initially the church was like, as long as you don't say it publicly, we're good, but if you say it, and if you like, okay, this is who I am, then we can't have you being an active member in the church anymore. So they kind of ostracized them. And it was so interesting when they said that to me, because for them, their faith and the church family was really, really important part of their development, their childhood. And I remember saying to them, you got to find your people, you got to find your tribe. And for some of us, our tribe is very, very tiny, a small group of individuals. For others, our tribe can be much bigger, much more diverse. What does your tribe look like?
I'm a big family person, and so my tribe is definitely my family. I would say first and foremost. I have a very loving husband. I have my sisters who are my aunt sisters. I don't know if you guys have this in Cayman, but like I have aunts who are double as sisters,
Yeah.
and uncles who double as brothers.
Hmm.
But I would say them for sure. I would say that the therapists that I work with in my private practice are definitely a part of my family, and I've been lucky enough to have some really good friends along the way. I would say that's my tribe, and hopefully, my tribe will become my audience, the audience that is in the show that I'm going to be doing here. Y'all will become a
Yeah.
part of my tribe too. I think that it can be so complicated when perspectives don't align with each
Hmm.
other. I think it's a really important thing to remember that everyone wants to love and connect, and fear can get in the way of that, right? And sometimes I think when it comes to church and LGBTQ, I think part of that, you can't say it, is sometimes, and I don't want to approve or disapprove of anything, but that person, they're almost trying to love you by saying that, but it's
Hmm.
harmful at the same time. And so it can be really hard, those dynamics where someone's trying to love you by ostracizing you, but it's actually hurtful. And so, throughout life, you have to find the people who can connect with you on your level and where you're at. And sometimes that may misalign over time. And certainly I've, connected with people over life and pruned people off, because our values and morals, they just didn't align with each other anymore. And that's okay too.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes relationships come to an end, and I'm sure we'll be having more than one of those discussions. Ken Barantes, buenos dias. Miss Lucille, who's in the UK, says, "Good morning, Dr. Saarah. Thank you. To be one of
Oh,
us, you can put my name on your list. I might be the first one on your list." Aw. Ah.
I'm happy to have you as the first one on the list, Lucille.
Yep, she is in the UK.
Right on.
So from Jamaica, lived in Cayman for a really long time, got some family here, and then she's in the UK now. So Allard Miles says, quick question for Dr. Saarah. Do you have any concerns of retaliation by the Trump administration? How did this get political, by aligning with social media platforms that consistently publish anti-Trump posts? They recently notified immigrants that the Trump administration will now require access to their social media accounts prior to granting any visa applications. Also recently, the Filipino community previously committed to joining the CMR lineup and have now informed that they're not willing to. And unfortunately, the rest of it get cut off. Let me see if I can read the rest on Facebook. I think that's a Facebook comment. So I want to make sure, Allard, that you are getting your facts straight. So let me just pull up this comment here if we can. Even Facebook blocked your comment, for the record, Allard. So I think that might say a lot. I can see it on my back end, but I'm going to just show you that Facebook actually blocked your comment. So when you don't see it afterward, don't think it's me. Facebook has actually blocked you. See? It's blocked. It's hidden by Facebook. So he goes on to say, also the Filipino community previously committed to join in CMR TV and now have informed that they're not willing to commit. Well, that's not exactly what it is, but so just wondering your position, since President Trump is going hard on opponents and their collaborators, both within the States and in social media, he has within his reach. This is so sad that we live in an era where this question even becomes a question that you put out there for mental health professional, Allard. Let me answer the CMR part of it, because you don't quite have that right. This had nothing to do with them not being willing to commit. They most certainly want to do it. They're still in our content creators group, and they have said, they will come on to this show. But unfortunately, because of work commitments of two of the individuals, they simply don't have the time because they're working very, very busy lives. And then the third person, she can't do it by herself. And she also has technical issues in terms of getting production done with no budget. So as I said yesterday, what we do here in this space is not easy. Just even from the production side, getting a show recorded, produced, cut, edit, whatever. Live shows are a little bit different, but you should never underestimate what it takes for someone to be able to do this. And so when someone says to me, Sandy, and we've had Allard, for the record, we've had multiple people who wanted to do a show, not just this Filipino group. We've had multiple people who've wanted to do a show who unfortunately have not been able to pull it off in the end, right? Life is busy, family life, work. So the Filipino community group was not the only ones. In fact, we have had quite a number. And I say to them, I get it, I understand. I'm putting together CMR TV. If you can't do it, that's no problem. We'll find other people. And so I don't want people to misinterpret what has happened with that particular group at all. And, let me say this. We have a saying in the Caribbean, Dr. Saarah, everything happens for a reason. And you're right where you're supposed to be. So in fact, we have had a member of the Filipino community who has reached out, who has past TV and radio experience. She would be an amazing addition. She's had over 10 years of experience as a programming director and radio host. She has ensured that all content creation met company standards. She hosted a daily talk show featuring interviews with local advertisers and Filipino talent worldwide. She's produced radio sweepers, PSAs, and bumpers that reflected the culture and social climate of their listeners. She is in this space. And I would love to, still talking to her, but I'd love to have her on board. And who knows, she might even be able to do a live show as opposed to a pre-recorded show, which I'm sure the Filipino community would probably really, really love. So, Allard, I'm not sure how that gets mixed in with your Trump comment. Dr. Saarah, you can answer this question or not about Trump. I don't know. I guess he must have Googled you and saw something about you and Trump. I don't really know what this is about.
Oh, I'm not. No, I mean, I don't have any affiliation in any way. I will say, as a doctor, my oath is to help people, and I help people who are across every political spectrum. I would say my personal life is separate from my life as a doctor in that way, that I feel personally like I have a duty to help everyone. Everyone has a desire to connect. Everyone has a desire to love. And a lot of people experience depression and anxiety, and I see my job is to heal and connect people back to themselves and back to their families and back to the people that they love. And that's my duty. And so I don't necessarily see my role as political in one way or the other. I see my role as a guiding force to help anyone who chooses to open themselves up to healing and change, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I also feel like I'm probably not significant enough for anybody to care about.
Well, as an American, I suppose you wouldn't be applying for a visa in the U.S. anyway, but,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
But I mean, let me ask you this from a mental health perspective. All of the stuff that's going on in the States around politics, like you can't even have a conversation with people anymore without them trying to like pigeonhole you. You're either pro-Trump or anti-Trump. And it's like you can't even live a life free of politics anymore. I imagine in the US, it's like very, very, I lived there for 15 years. And part of that was my childhood, part was my university life. But I can't remember a time, and this was under like the Reagan administration and multiple presidents after that, Bush and whatever. I can't remember a time when politics seemed to have been so adversarial. And how does that impact the people perhaps that even come to you for mental health issues? Is that seeping into the mental health arena as well?
I think that just like general distress, depending on what end of the political spectrum you're on, everyone is experiencing distress. And so that in general will seep into the mental health space. People are struggling, financially, like people are struggling economically, people are struggling in so many different ways. I think that as a therapist, I supervise a lot of therapists. It's a big part of my job. And many times my advice to them is, if you feel so strongly one way or the other that you feel like you can't help someone because of their political beliefs, you might need to hand them over to someone else, right? Because everybody deserves, to a certain extent, to gain healing by someone who can have compassion for them. And so if you're in a space where you don't feel like you can have compassion for someone based on their belief system, then it's more important for that person to be able to receive help by someone who can have compassion for them. That's a part of culturally responsive care, right? And that is dependent either way that you go. It definitely seeps in. Everybody's feeling it. No matter where you're at and what your political affiliations are, everybody is feeling it.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad. Someone was asking about, well, what happened to Dr. Carlos? I mean, Allard might start to create some story around that. Listen, Dr. Carlos is amazing. I still speak to him, on a regular basis. And really, he was getting out of the practice. That's why Dr. Saarah has purchased and taken over his practice. They were colleagues. And, he's trying something different. He's going in his own direction. And there are things that he just wants to focus on. So he doesn't have time for this. I mean, it's as simple as that. People have to understand that when you're a content creator, you have to be able to make time for creating the content. And depending on who you are, that requires different levels of commitment and research and, putting things together. It's not just showing up for 1 hour and doing a show like boom. There are things that you have to do in preparation of your shows ahead of time. That's why yesterday when I was saying that I'm so proud of the strides that Sabrina has taken to do and commit to a daily show for the last 3 months, it's because I know what it takes to do a daily show. And you have to be prepared that if I come on here, Dr. Saarah, and it's a 2-hour show, I have to be prepared that I will not have a single caller call in. And so I have to carry a 2-hour show talking the entire time all by myself. I can't even have a 30-second not talking or a piece of music bed or whatever, because the radio cuts out, and I don't expect the average person to really know what that takes or what it feels like. But I respect content creators and I take my hats off to them because I do know the commitment that it takes. And I know the responsibility that's involved. And so, when Sunny from the Filipino community said to me, unfortunately, we have not been able to record anything yet. And, this one's busy, that one's busy. We can't get our schedules aligned. I understood fully, how that works. Wendy Ledger and I have a show, and I was just talking to Wendy yesterday, and she's like, oh man, Sandy, this week is super busy with news stories. So hopefully next week. And that's what, for my regular content creators, one of the pieces of advice that I give them is to have at least 4 or 5 episodes, what we call in the can, so that when life throws you a tough week and you can't do anything related to your show in a particular week or two, you're still 3 or 4 episodes ahead to really, get your content going. So I don't mind sharing this with our audience and really demystifying this process and how we work and what we do, because I think that also is important for people to have realistic expectations and to actually appreciate when people put content together that, wow, they're putting themselves out there, right? There's another young lady who had to buy some new equipment, and some people are on a budget. So they're like, Sandy, I don't have the money right now to go out there and buy a nice mic set or whatever. And I have literally, out of my own stash and my own, whatever, I've literally given people, here, you take this microphone. You need it. It'll level up your audio. I understand that you don't have a source of income coming in right now. You don't have a job, whatever, but you still want to do your content. Just take it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about paying me back, whatever. I've given away lights and all sorts of equipment. And that really is, from one content creator to the next. I know that money is involved and, when they want to level up their game and be as professional as possible, and we all are helping each other. So can I just give a big shout out to Tevin, who is Vernon, who's also in our content creator group, because he did something recently to help one of our other content creators really level up her visual in her in-home studio. And I hope hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing this, because I want to show you guys what happens when we collaborate and when we work together. We can, demystify a lot of, what happens. We have an opportunity to assist each other. So of course, Tevin has gone out of his way. You know, he does his own recordings and that sort of thing, but he has actually gone out of his way to help another content creator when, you know, he didn't have to. And when you see, I'm going to show you guys the before and after. My apologies. When you see the before and after of what her studio setup looks like, I can tell you that what he did was so amazing. So this is back August 31st. Big shout out to Melanie Sims. Her show is going to be called Polished Presence. And Melanie showed a before and after picture of just the lighting and what the lighting looks like after Tevin went into her home and said, okay, this is what you need to do. Position this here, position that there. And what a world of difference, you know, it has made in her visual and what her show is actually going to look like. This is great. This is what this is all about. It's all about community. CMR TV is really connecting Cayman through the community, and the content creators are part of that. And that is why when people start talking about, oh, you know, why do you have to have Filipinos on your show? I'm like, listen to me. Don't come to me with that kind of foolishness, because I really don't like it. And it's about diversity. So I want Jamaicans. I want Caymanians. If I could have all Caymanians, I don't think the show would be as the entire CMR TV platform would be as diverse and interesting, because our community is not just all Caymanians. We've got Caymanians, we've got Jamaicans, we've got Filipinos, and hopefully we can have another one now come on and pick up the mantle. You know, with Spanish people, we had DJ Yo-Yo, and again, he had to kind of pull back right now because of commitments. But look at the before and after with her lighting, how the background is lit up and all that kind of stuff. It's just amazing. And she was so thankful. She said, so patient, prompt, and professional. And he went above and beyond. It is truly a world of difference to my stress levels, because now, you know, she's ready to hit that record button, and it looks amazing. Her lighting is right. The shadows have been removed from the background. And these are all the things that the content creators, Ellard, are doing in the background that you don't appreciate. But I can tell you that they're having to struggle with and they're having to work with. So instead of being overly critical and asking people these types of questions, which I find a little bit, you know, strange, Trump was not in the discussion at all today. I think what you need to focus on is the amazing job that these content creators are doing. And as a result of that, we're going to have a platform, the only platform in the Cayman Islands, I should say, that is going to be bringing you this level of content. Nobody else is bringing you any other show that is like Caymanians only. I don't care who they are. I don't care how much money they have over at Compass Media. There's no Cayman talk show. You know, Caymanian hosted talk show. And so you're going to have multiple ones. You've already got Sabrina in the evenings. You've got me in the mornings. You've got other content creators. So I find it really rich when you guys say to me, well, why do you need other people other than Caymanians? I'm like, really? Okay. I'm kind of, you know, a bit perturbed, if I can say that, when you ask me that question. I'm like, we have more creators than anybody else on the lineup. And we have more Caymanians than anybody else. So give me a break. Seriously, Dr. Saarah, sometimes it's not 9:30 yet. I always look at the time because 9:30 is like my after show. And that's when I turn up a little bit. I will curse people out. Now, sometimes I enjoy cursing people out. I want you to help diagnose me.
Let's go. Sit on my couch, Sandy. Let's go.
Yes, I enjoy cursing people out. Now, my aunt, which, by the way, I'm doing a show in character with her, Aunt Lottie, she'd be washing my mouth out with soap, and there was no corner back then. You got your behind whooped, right? So she would have been like, don't use that word. But as an adult, I find it invigorating and refreshing that if I want to curse, I can do that. That's like my freedom. Is there something wrong with me that sometimes I legit just enjoy having a good cursing fest?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, people say that some of the most intelligent people in this world tend to be cursers. It's you know, it's a good way to express yourself every once in a while. Cursing people out, I mean, it's probably entertaining, and you're in the business of entertainment, so you know I can't knock it too hard.
I must admit the numbers do go up. after show is always lit. They're like, "Ooh,
Right.
Andy, it's a Friday. Can we have an after show?" And I'm like, "Oh, y'all are so bad."
Right.
So yeah, I mean, listen, whatever. Thank you so much. Trisha says those who have never lived anywhere else to appreciate diversity. Those are the ones who never lived anywhere else to appreciate diversity, or they've had bad experiences altogether. Abby says we love a hot 9:30 session.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely bring it. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, I listen, it's okay. Let me tell you my experience about something, right, Dr. Saarah? I lived in the States, and this was the 80s. I went there in the early 80s when I was 9 years old. And I had an experience of like trying to integrate into the US at that time.
Mhm.
And that was really, really difficult because I came as a child with this heavy Canadian accent. Nobody understood what I was saying. Like the kids are like, we can't understand you. What do you mean? What are you saying? Like, and I had to quickly, I think as children, you learn, you have to quickly integrate, assimilate with people, or it's like sink or swim kind of vibe, right?
Absolutely.
So I had to get with it. And there were things in the US that I didn't understand culturally that eventually, I had to learn. I was away from my family. I was in a new environment, like geographically, there were things that were different. You can't just run outside and play in the yard. You might get kidnapped. So there were like restrictions on what I could and couldn't do. All of a sudden, I had this woman that I didn't even know. I met her like once, my aunt, becoming my primary caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And she had her own rules, and she was older and very, very strict. So even at 9, some of the things that I was already doing, she's like, "Oh no, not in my household."
Right.
She would take out the whip and beat you if she needed to.
Mhm.
Like everything was so different. My world was literally turned upside down overnight. And so I had to adjust. And, I did the best that I could. And then, I'll tell you what, I had this experience when I turned 18 that I moved out because she was kind of like, I realized, especially in my first year, I mean, I knew it, but my first year of university, I stayed at home with her. And I realized that she was actually, nobody's perfect. And she had her own control issues and her own issues. She was very, very controlling. She was a hypochondriac. And so that control was stifling my development as a young person. Like I couldn't do anything. It was like school, back home, like, in university, kids are like hanging out, they're doing extracurricular stuff. Like I couldn't do anything. I was the kid who couldn't have the after school job. I was the kid who, even in high school, was very, very limited on the senior parties. Like I didn't go to my senior prom. Like there was so much stuff that I missed out on because of her strict confinements. And I know when I reflect on it, part of it for her was like, this is somebody else's child. If something happens to her, I'm going to have to live with that. I'm going to be responsible for that. So she never wanted to like have to pick up the phone and call my dad and said, "Oops, Sandy got kidnapped at the mall today," or whatever. Right. So I think that was part of the reason, but she also was just overprotective because that's who she was. Like, I don't know, historically in her own life, she never moved out from home. She lived at home her entire life. It was like this multi-generational, my cousin, William, he likewise never moved out and lived on his own. Like he's in his almost mid 60s now, and he still lives in the same house, the same location as his childhood house. He like never moved out. He took care of her, up until her and my uncle passed away, and then never moved out. To me, that's not natural because it doesn't give someone the opportunity to develop and to become their own adult. And yes, go out there and make their own mistakes and all this kind of stuff. Her attitude is like, "Oh, you just want to go out there to get a boyfriend, to get a man." That's what she thought it was all about. So she didn't understand why anybody would ever move from home. So at 18, I had to have a plan and it was so funny because some church people helped me move out, but I had to have a plan of how I was going to move out, where I was going to go, where I was going to stay, and all this kind of stuff. And literally I got up, packed my little stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm moving out. She had a nervous breakdown. She literally had a nervous breakdown because she could not appreciate and understand why I would want to move out, why I would want to leave. And then, you know, the interesting thing is, you're learning a lot about me today, but the interesting thing is, she then started to take stuff from me, like, oh, you can't take your clothes. And I said, okay, no problem. I'll leave without clothes. You know, because that was her way of like, what are you going to have when you leave? If you have nothing, then you have to stay. And I said, no. What I know is, today I gain my freedom, I gain my independence, and I'm not staying. If that means that I leave with the clothes on my back and nothing else. It was a big thing. Dr. Saarah, the police were calling. It was all this, you know, she did not want me to leave. And they're like, listen, she's 18 now. She can leave. And so I said, fine, I won't take any clothes. I'm leaving. Then she's like, wait, you can't leave without clothes. And I'm like, the bottom line is I'm leaving. So I leave without clothes. So then she pick and chose what she wanted me to leave with. And can I tell you something? I believe up to this day, maybe she's now removed it a couple years later, but years later when I moved out, she still had my room decorated the exact same way. My closet still had my clothes in it. I was like, oh man, I wish I could go out and try on something and go like over one leg, because obviously that size I will never ever see again. But yeah, she kept everything the same, because I don't know, like my identity was tied up in her, and it was just like a really weird thing, and I had to break free.
And it sounds like her identity was tied up in you as well. I think one of the universal things that we'll talk about, Sandy, is that many people live their life, it's driven by fear, right? And it sounds like, unfortunately for your aunt, that her life was driven by fear. And fear can be this generational thing, like you were talking about, that gets pulled down from generation to generation. And when you moved here, it was very brave of you, by the way, to have to go through all of that to break away. And much of the growth that we all experience in life is having that fear and deciding to push past it anyway, right? And that's kind of what you had to do when you moved here. You had to do that. Similar to me, when I moved to the States, it was a huge culture shock. I had the same experience where a teacher told me to my face, like, I can't understand anything that you're saying. And going through those things and pushing past them is how we grow. And I'm sure throughout your assimilation, you had to be afraid of 100 things and then push past them. And that's kind of what has inspired you in life, to be afraid of doing something and pushing past it. And that's something for all of us to learn along our human journey, right? Is to be afraid of something and know, even though I'm afraid, I'm going to push past it. Now, some of us, because of the experience we have in life, because of the ways that we're held back in life, we don't have the gift of pushing past our fear. And unfortunately, it sounds like that's something that your aunt struggled with, was pushing past that fear. And sometimes love and fear are on kind of two ends of a spectrum. And sometimes when someone loves you and they're led by fear, they want to hold you and they want to keep you in the fear with them, because they feel that that's the only way to keep you safe. Right. And so even the things that felt like punishment was her saying, no, I love you. Right. And and the only way I know to love is to pull you into the fear with me. Right. And so, and because she felt that in the fear is where you're safe. And you were like, no, outside of the fear is where I thrive. Right. And so there was always going to be that pull. Right. Because you saw, I have to push past the fear to thrive. And but she felt, no, you have to stay in the fear to be safe.
Yeah. And you know what is so funny is, after I moved out, there's a period of time when I had to really not have any communication with her. And then I kind of eased back into it slowly, but and then I would go and visit, because I was afraid she was going to kidnap me back into the house, to be honest, right? But yeah, and I mean, this was like, she was really like next level. So I had to put space between us, and then I started to kind of work on it again, but I had to always do it on my terms, because she was that powerful. She was that powerful of a force in my life. And even today, like, people know I talk about her in this show all the time. Like, hello, I'm doing a whole show, The Gospel According to Aunt Lottie. So that shows you how impactful she obviously was in my life, right? But she definitely, I always felt like I couldn't let her back in 100%, because she would take back over. So I had to do it on my terms. And there were times that she would say little things to me, like when I was getting married or whatever, and I had to pump the brakes. Like you're not gonna control this. I'm going to do this, right? Because it's so funny, but my life has been impacted by her in the most extraordinary way. So yes, I mean, I the way that I think had obviously was reshaped after the age of 9, and she felt like she was having to remold me because I was already picking up like really bad habits and stuff. So there was a lot of that, like you say, that I do believe came from a place of, I love you and I want the best for you. And then, but she was also just a control freak with everybody in her life, right? Like she dictated your entire day, when you ate, when you slept, when you, like, one of the reasons I'm completely helpless with my hair is that, when little girls get to that age where they want to play around with their hair and they could do stuff. Up until I left at the age of 18, my aunt was doing my hair for me.
Wow.
She was washing it. She was, straightening it with old time straighteners and whatever. She like literally did everything for me. And I was just like, no, I need to get out. So I recognize, I think as a young adult, that this isn't quite right. And that I don't want to be my cousin at the time, age of like, 20 something, 30, living at home forever. Like, I believe kids should go out there, open up your own bank account, have your own credit, get in trouble with the credit because you really didn't know what you were doing, get a job. All of those things were like important to me at a very young age. And I just didn't have that level of freedom. Now, here's the quandary. Sometimes I become her in that I have a control issue. So I want to control situations and I want to control people. Right. So in my first relationships, I really saw that rearing its ugly head, and now I pulled back more because there are people who would be like, hold on, this is too much. You can't control whether someone loves you or how they feel about you. And, another part of it, I got to be honest with you. I think a key thing that played into it, because I wasn't actually her child, there was the fear, like I said, what if something happens? But there was also the fear that I wouldn't and couldn't love her like a parent. Because after a while, she obviously saw me as her own child, right? And I remember she would say stuff to me, even when I was deciding to move back to Cayman. She said, I knew you would always abandon me. So there's like this fear of abandonment. I knew that you would always abandon me and you would leave and go back to them. Like go back to your family that, they didn't even want you. It was kind of like, well, they didn't want you. That's why I have you. And now you're going to leave me and go back. And I was like, that is so not what's going on here. I'm like, I'm not abandoning you just because I moved back to my country and I want to be around my own people or kind of see what my country, yes, you moved to the States as a young child and you made this your life, but maybe that's not what my life is going to be. But she always really felt that I was going to abandon her, and that was a horrible thing.
Yeah, and an abandonment is something you feel in your bones, right?
Yeah.
It's something that comes from your childhood. So in her childhood, she likely has been experiencing that all the way from then. So many times it's like you can know something, you can know like, yes, this person is not abandoning me, but it's so deep inside us, that feeling of abandonment, that it can drive 100 things, right? And when we have that desire to control things, that's fear, right? The reason why we want to control things is because we're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of things getting out of control, right? And so her fear of your abandonment caused her to want to control you, to keep you as close to her as possible, right? And same thing with you. If you're wanting to control things around you, it's like, I don't want things around me to get out of control either. It's a learned thing, and it's one of those things that like we do without even thinking about it, right? Because it's in our bones. It's a feeling, right? It's a feeling that sends automatic signals to our brain to say, nope, 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 control it. Make sure that it's not gonna get away from us, right? Because a universal thing, Sandy, that everybody like will probably learn over the time of getting to know me is everybody just wants to feel loved, and everybody just wants to feel like they're worthy of love and belonging at the end of the day. And we will do anything to feel that. And so when we grow up in environments where we don't feel like we belong, when we don't feel loved, we act out of fear, right? We act out of fear and we do whatever we can, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's controlling someone else, the way they eat, the way they live, the way they dress, whether
Mhm.
it's whether it's like being jealous, right? Whether it's abandoning someone else before they abandon us. So when people cheat, a
Mhm.
lot of times that's what's going on there, is that they're afraid you won't love me anymore. So I'm gonna go off and cheat because I'm afraid that you're gonna leave me. So I'm gonna leave you first,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
A lot of those types of things are just around abandonment, or maybe
Yeah.
marrying someone that you don't necessarily love, but you know that they'll never leave you, right? And so
Mhm.
that there's all these different ways that that kind of
Yeah.
abandonment shows up in our lives.
Wow. And it's so true because I see that even in like past relationships, I'm like friendships, everything. I'm the one who will cut people off first. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm done. Like, you got to go. I don't want any more of this. And I think that, what you rightfully said is maybe there's a bit more involved in why that's like my go-to response,
Mhm.
right? So Jasara says, I too experienced the same with my great grand aunt who raised me. The dynamics of someone else raising a child other than the parents, I think changes a lot. And when you have it be like an aunt, a grand aunt, whatever, someone who's even a little bit older, their context and vision for how kids are raised and for life obviously changes as well. And we're just touching on a few topics here, but wow, I think that that's got to be even a unique experience, having an aunt raise you, but then they take on the maternal figure or even a grandparent who raises
Mhm.
you. What are your thoughts around some of that and what it does to the family dynamics?
I mean, it's huge, right? Because even when my mom went to America and then I was living with my grandparents in Jamaica, I had those feelings, right? I grew
Mhm,
up, my grandmother had a set of kids that was my mom, but then she had a set of kids that were my age. And so I always felt like kind of
mhm,
the odd one out, like, oh, I'm a part of this family, but I'm not really a part of this family. And my grandmother had to do ways to felt like she had to overcompensate by
mhm,
being special to me in certain ways, which created rifts. So you're so right that all of these dynamics, when it comes to that, and that happens a lot in Caribbean families, right? Where the parents go off and do XYZ, and then there's another family member that steps in. I have an aunt that's the same way, where she was raised by her grand aunt, and it created a lot of rifts for her because her grand aunt had her very strict under very specific cuffs because of that fear that maybe you'll end up like your parents, or maybe because you don't have your parents that you'll stray off in different ways, and it's a different
mhm.
type of responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, this is going to be such an amazing segment with Dr. Sarah Nicholas. I think I've been calling you Nichols all this time. My apologies.
I get it all the time, don't worry about it.
She is our newest addition to the CMR family. Mental health. She's amazing. I love her. The energy is just positive and it's there. Licensed psychologist with over 10 years of specialized experience in helping people to overcome trauma. So many people live with trauma, but they don't always deal with trauma. So we are hoping
That's
that
so
during this show, and again, let's keep it in context. She can't give you, she'll respond to your questions, answer your questions, give you feedback, but don't take this as a substitute for speaking to a mental health professional. You've always got to reach out to someone licensed in your area because we've obviously got people from all over the world. There are licensing restrictions. I didn't know this until recently, but there are licensing restrictions. And if someone is licensed like in one country or one state or whatever, that might prohibit them from giving advice to people, in other areas. So these are professional obligations. And she's here to really just open up the dialogue around our mental health and wellness, around trauma, and perhaps, give you something to ponder and to take away. And that's really the most important thing. So, Dr. Saarah, I want to thank you so much for being willing to give this a shot, to come on our platform. And I'm really looking forward to the shows that we'll be doing together in the coming weeks. And of course, when she pulls out and, does her own show, that's going to be an amazing time as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Shaka says, and she has that West Indian flair and understanding, definitely a plus for Caymanians. And that, I think the stars aligned when Dr. Carlos said to me, you know, I are pulling in different directions. I need to focus on a few things, but I think you should meet Dr. Saarah. And I was like, okay. When I heard you were from the Caribbean and Jamaica, no less, I was like, what? This is going to be lit.
I'm here to bring the fire, Sandy.
Yes, girl. We love it. We love it. We love it. Thank you so much. And please have an enjoyable week. We'll see you again next week, Wednesday. So next week, Wednesday, we can pick a particular topic. If you guys have any questions that you want to send in for Dr. Saarah, send them to the CMR hotline. You guys know we've got the 936-2626 number. I've got my personal number, which all of Cayman knows anyway. 334-1612. Go ahead and WhatsApp your questions. You can email your questions as well. info@cmrtv.com. Just put in the headline, question for Dr. Saarah. Her name is spelled with 2 A's. And so next week we hope to be able to focus in a little bit on a specific topic and perhaps answer some of your questions and engage you further. So thanks, Doc, and we will see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Take care. All right, folks, and I'm going to go into overtime. Let me just check my schedule. Let me just check a little email here. I want to make sure these people have not booked me for anything Wednesday, October 15th. That was yesterday. Oh, I do have a lunch appointment today. Oh, no, today's Wednesday, right? Is today Wednesday? Oh, man, I went yesterday. Oh, that's too funny. All right, so Thursday, I went for one of my lunch appointments early. Oh, my goodness. Okay, 12 p.m. on Thursday. 12:30. Today's Thursday, right? Yes. No, today's Wednesday. Oh, my God. I'm so confused with days of the week. Okay. All right, so I went to an appointment early yesterday, but it was lunch, so they seemed like they didn't even care. Okay. Crooks. All right, so no worries. That's fine. Today's good. We're clear today. Okay, let me see here. Yes, we were looking for someone online with their ID. 1 second. So yes, I'm excited to have the good doc on board. And let me just archive that. Okay. So let's talk about the Seamans. We've got time this morning. We're going to go into some OT, some overtime. I need to get Gigi her multiplication chart. All right, give me 1 second. I need to give her some work because I need chill. Third graders. Y'all know them. They're going to be trying to get away with stuff. So I'm printing off some worksheets for her. Her multiplication tables 2 and 3. Let me print this off. Hold on. There's so many amazing resources online that are like completely free for kids, for parents to give their kids. So look at this one. It gives her practice 1 times 2, 7 times 2. So I'm going to give her this so she can start her practicing, because otherwise, honey child, she's going to be like, I want to get an iPad. I'm going to be like, no, you're not getting an iPad today. She's on her midterm break already. Lord have mercy. Come on, man. So early for midterm breaks. 9 times 3, 1 times 2. So I'm going to allow her to use her little sheet for some of these, her little cheat sheet, because she's still learning some. And then, and by the way, if you guys ever need any resources, hit me up, because I can find a resource to give kids some homework and practice stuff at school. Yes, honey child. So we're going to do multiplication for, she's in year 3 now. So this is all year 3 appropriate stuff. Let me show you guys what some of these worksheets look like. They're pretty cool. Yeah, and this gives her good practice. Good morning, caller. How you doing?
Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Kenan. I am
Hello,
doing
darling.
fine.
I
Hello,
want to catch
hello.
up with you this week, actually, about the talk show for the young folks. We gotta sit down and
Uh,
plan out all of our criteria requirements and start the recruitment.
that sounds wonderful. And this week is going to be kind of tough. I'm going to send you my schedule
Okay.
because, yeah, I'm going to be doing back-to-back trips over the next several weeks. Personal as well as business.
Okay.
Yeah, before the business season. But
Yeah.
certainly, and I'm glad that you said that because that's the real reason why I'm calling this morning is
Mhm.
because of those young people. I just want to take the opportunity to congratulate all of the graduates from John Gray High School 2025 class last night.
Yes.
200 and I think 211, 217, something like that. Not everybody was at graduation that was due to graduate, but I'm sure for good reasons why they were not there. But again, here we are with 200 plus young people coming out of one school. And then we have Clifton, which is on Thursday. Again, I'm sure that's another probably 200. And of course, we had the BRAC a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's this time of the year where we have the 400 plus young people coming out of our school, coming into this big, wild, crazy, mad world. And I always say, you know, many of them are going to continue their education, which hopefully they will, because they do have those opportunities. But then you have those that, unfortunately, they may not want to, may not choose to do so, but they're going to come into the world, and into that crazy world, the workforce world, and I just want to encourage all of our businesses out there to, you know, let's work with our young people. Let's give them that opportunity. Let's give them that break, that chance here, because we've all been through it ourselves. But yeah, I just want to, and I want to big up all of our parents out there, our parents, our grandparents that are there involved in their children's lives. We saw so many children walk the stage last night that I'm sure a lot of people thought, oh, wow, he or she walked the stage, never thought they would get there. But yes, they did. It is that perseverance, it's that encouragement, us, the community being behind these young people, and they're supporting them and even supporting the parents because parents need a lot of support too as well. But yeah, it's just that opportunity I want to take to big up our students that graduated last night and those that are about to graduate from Clifton in the next 2 days, and also big up our parents, but also to encourage our businesses out there that if a young person come into the workforce and they're applying, you know, give them that opportunity, give them that chance. At least we can say, hey, listen, we did our part, we tried, we gave them a chance.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think that that's fantastic. And let us congratulate and acknowledge all of the young people,
Yes.
as you say, from the various schools who now are going to start to either go on to university or enter tech, vote tech area, or perhaps go into the workforce.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
this is such, I mean, I remember as I was talking to Dr. Saarah this morning, I remember, you know, what it was like to
Yes.
come out of high school and you feel like, oh my gosh, like your life is going to change forever, and you're growing up, and there's just so much to it that
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty amazing that
Yes, and I also want to remind them, you know, our guest speaker last night at the graduation was Dr. Cheyenne O'Connor, and he gave them some great advice about the empty jar and filling it up. Try to fill it up with those 3 big rocks first before you add the pebbles and the sand and the water. Yes, and it started, the number one big rock he spoke to them and he encouraged them was their education. You know, try to further your education and don't just settle for an associate well, he didn't even mention the word associate. He started at bachelor's. He told them, he said, bachelor's nowadays are the pebbles. He said, hey, go for your master's, go for your doctorate. And then that was the first big rock. The second big rock was, hey, listen, buy yourself a house. Get yourself a house in Cayman. And then he spoke then. And the third big rock was get married in life. Just don't go out there. And, a lot of people were there saying, oh, wow, those are strong words, because he spoke to them and he said, they still go out there now and start having babies in Eastern West Bay, Northside, Georgetown, or having the girlfriends all over the place or the boyfriends. Go out there and get your education, buy yourself a home, and then, make the next big rock be, getting married and building a family, building a good foundation, and always include God into everything. And, I thought, it sounded a little harsh at a graduation, but guess what? These kids are already hearing and learning these stuff at an early age. So you need to talk reality into these children's lives now, and speak truth, be real with them. So I wanted to say thank you to him for his advice to them. And also, lastly, I want to big up Jaron Reynolds Velasquez that received a governor's award last night. That's that young man that he has already spoken into his future and said that he one day plans to be the future premier of the Cayman Islands, for him to walk the stage and for him to receive that award, the governor's award, and the governor presented it himself and everything.
Yeah.
I can tell you this young man was overwhelmed last night. So yes, that's my Judy for the day.
Yeah.
That's my time Judy for the day.
One thing I want to sit down with Jaron, because I wonder if he and I can have a chat, because I think he would be
absolutely
amazing, to do a show. But I want to tell him, I know he wants to be premier, but don't limit yourself to that, because I feel
absolutely.
I don't feel like that is necessarily like the top of like dream bigger than premiership.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
for me, being premier is like, he doesn't quite know the reality of politics. So that might not be what he thinks it's gonna be.
Let me put it that way. Thing is that he's thinking big. He's not just saying,
but dream bigger than that.
You're absolutely right.
Dream bigger than that. There's so many bigger and better things than being premier of this country. Trust me.
Absolutely.
Trust and believe.
But you know what? I certainly got to get you guys hooked up to have that conversation.
Yes.
And I can tell you, he would love to sit down and talk with you or anybody, and just, that's the kind of person he is.
I'm open to, I haven't done any mentoring recently, because a young man that I used to mentor is now in the UK living his best life. So I feel like I need to take on a new understudy. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, Sandra, definitely look forward to catching up with you, and certainly sit down and talking with you about the teen show. I think that's a great thing. That will So have a wonderful day. Have a blessed day, everybody.
We have a question. We have a question. You might be able to help answer this. Can you explain to me from the USA why high school graduations are in October in Cayman? They used to be a different time, right?
There used to be a different time. Graduations used to be held in June of the, in June normally. That's when it was. But what you have to realize is that exams, so those external exams that they take, those exam results don't even come out until August. And I am happy that it is being held in October. The reason why I can tell you is because I faced that situation with my two older daughters when they graduated from John Gray High School. So when they graduated, they both did 2 years of graduation. And the reason being is because they had already accomplished a certain amount of degrees where they graduated that June based on what they had accomplished already. But they didn't know what their true level was. And that, when I say the true level, meaning, whether you're a level 1, level 2, high honors or honors. So because of the fact that those final exam results that they did in that final year didn't come out until August. So my daughter graduated 1 year, the first daughter, and then she had to go back the second year and do like high honors graduation. So it's like it was a double whammy. So I think that's basically why they changed it, is to accommodate the fact that we don't get those exam results. And I can, I stand to be corrected on everything I say, but I do feel that's exactly what the reason is, and like I said, I I faced it with them because of the fact that back then too, we weren't even getting, where former minister had authorized and given the free caps and gowns to parents or to the students graduating. Those two daughters of mine, the older ones, like I said, it was a double whammy. 1 year they had a normal graduation. They graduated because they met the criteria. But then they came back and graduated the second year because of them getting those exam results from the year before, that they had to come back the second year and then graduate with like high honors. So of course it was like paying again to get that extra stole and all of the sachets
so it has
and all of
more
that.
to do with because that's the UK testing, right?
That is UK, yes.
Yes,
exactly,
and that's why some of the private schools are still graduating. Their graduations are still happening like in June.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then of course it also gives, because remember now we only go up to year 11 in the government schools. So, and then they go into the dual enrollment where they can go on to SciTech. And I want to make it clear to people, because a lot of people say, SciTech is only for the children that didn't do well. No. They're children that have done well, extremely well, that they still go on to SciTech, where they get that opportunity that they can add additional subjects, because they can, they can go to SciTech being a level 1 student or level 2, but while they're at SciTech for that year 12 program, then they can move themselves. And you see that every year. They add additional subjects and they take those extra exams that they move themselves up then from a level 1, level 2, and move into high honors or even honors. Of course, that's part of the dual enrollment program, or they can go, and that's where they also get the opportunity to start their associates as well too. And they can go on to UCCI, or they can, if they're going into the UK or any of those countries where A-levels are highly recognized, then they go in, they start doing their A-levels then over at Catholic or prep. So with the dual enrollment program, it gives them that opportunity where they can expand even more and on themselves, especially in SciTech. So I want parents to understand that don't think because your child go to SciTech that they've done bad or they're doing bad. No, they can improve themselves so much more, even better, because it's better for them to go to SciTech and try to add those additional subjects and not even knowing. And Sandra, I could be fair with you, to be honest here with parents this morning. Children nowadays, you have some children going on to that dual enrollment program where our kids may look at us and say, right now, I don't even know which school I want to go to. I really don't even know what I want to do. They're still not that solidly, confirmed. Like, what do I want to be or do with my life? Which we should be encouraging them and sitting down with them and helping them sort that out.
Yes.
Or by the time they get to that stage, they may have wanted to be a pilot, but now they've changed and want to be an accountant, you see what I'm saying? So yes, like I said, all of this, I stand to be corrected on all of this, but I'm sure of what I'm saying. This is the reasons why. And yes, parents are welcome to contact the department and certainly get that information. And in fact, what I might do, Sandra, is really get that information in full and get that to you so that you can help with those questions that come into you.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And let me take this opportunity to also say that one of the agencies or departments, if you will, that is going to be working very, very closely with us is the Ministry of Education. They actually will have a Ministry Matters show on CMR TV. Woo, woo. Yes. And so Miss Tonya Cacho, who's the chief officer, and the minister and their teams are going to be putting together all sorts of stuff. So on that note, if you have any sort of a questions or anything that you would like to see the ministry focus on and highlight on their program, send it through. We are happy to, we're happy to pass that along to them, and that will help them to shape their content around what the community wants to hear.
Absolutely. And everybody knows that Minister Anglin is absolutely passionate when it comes to education. 12 years ago, this man had an excellent plan. He's back there now. And that plan It's as if he never left. He's just going full force forward with his educational plan. And he has a passion, so I'm glad to hear that he's on board with this. Miss Latonya Cacho, wonderful chief officer. So definitely. So parents, get and this is where we have to say to our parents, don't just sit and wait for the opportunity. Put your questions together and send them in to Sandra, send them in to CMR. I'm sure that you will get those questions sent over and queried and get those answers that you can come back and say, hey, listen, you had this question last week. I went and researched it and got it, and here it is. Get the questions and do not be afraid. And I tell people, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There are things in life that I have no clue and I got asked questions about, and especially when it comes to tech and all that sort of stuff. I go to my 16-year-old to sort life out there. But ask your questions. Please do.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. All right,
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
So some really good salient points. And again, congratulations to all of the graduates across the government schools. Somebody else says, yes, Sandy, back in the 70s and 80s, graduation from the Cayman Islands High School was in November each year. Then they moved it to June or July, but it's because of the final exam passes. So that's the UK-based exam system and kind of how that works. If your child goes to an American-style private school, then they will graduate normally around the June, July time as well. Lucille's obsessed with the lip gloss today. You need your lip gloss. She said you need your lip glass. Call Sabrina today. Is a special day. You're going to need it. Actually, I'm wearing a color. Maybe the color doesn't quite show up as well on camera as it does in person, because it is a where's the color? Hold on, I'm trying to find it. It's more of it's a very subtle color, in fact, but I can't remember what color it is. I have it here somewhere in the drawer. But yeah, it's a subtle color. But listen, not every day has to be a bright day. So I'm already overshining with the coat of all arms. Where is it anyway? I had it here somewhere. Oh, here it is. I'm already. This one is called Dulce RK. So it is it's in the brown family. And I actually love wearing a brown lip gloss but there it is. Can you see it? It's kind of like a light brown. So on screen, it's not really popping, but in person it is. And you don't need it you don't always need to have the lips popping, honey child. Sometimes subtle is just fine. And I know beauty queen Sabrina is over there wowing you all every day with her fashionista self, but I've got my own fashion sense. And you don't have to like it, but you'll be just fine. It's not going to change what's coming out of the lips, I can assure you that. It's still going to be the cold hard truth. See? All right. Get over it, Miss Lucille. You'll be fine. Gabby says, yes, I was watching last night. Congratulations to all. Miss Sue says, congratulations to all the girls and boys who graduated. Lavana says, exactly, all these children are coming out of school and no jobs, but work permits are not stopping, and status/PR are still going away. I don't know how it works these days in terms of whether you as parents sit down with your children to try to figure out what they want to do with their lives. It's kind of reflecting back when I was in high school. I knew for a very long time that I had a dream of wanting to be an attorney at law. And look at me now. So life, where you want it, where you think, that's what I keep telling little Jaren, that premiership is not what it's cut up to be. Trust me, that is a cutthroat business. And I don't know if you're such a sweet little young man. I don't know if you'll ever be ready for that position, because you got to have some balls of steel and then some to deal with those other politicians, child, and the people. They're going to be begging you every second for every dollar you got. You're going to be so broke, it's not even going to be funny. But anyway, honey chill. I think that, quite frankly, there are things that you can do that with your kids. You know, you need to sit down and have a conversation. Like, what is it that they're interested in doing? Some of them will definitely want to go to work right away, and others might want to do some further education. The only thing I know is the one thing children cannot do is just sit home and do nothing. And so that was always my understanding. Well, in my household, it was like, you're going to university. There wasn't even a thought of that's not going to happen. And you know what is really interesting is I was surrounded in high school. I was in AP classes, advanced placement and honors classes. I was actually a really good student in high school. In middle school, elementary school, not so much. So it kind of dawned on me when I got older that, oh shoot, these grades are going to count. This is going to matter and it's going to impact my life. And I was like, girl, you better shape up your shit. And then we got serious. But I think that because I was surrounded by a lot of like honors and advanced placement kids, like some of the brightest in our school for sure, all the little Asian children, you know, I was like, I ain't taking no physics because the sciences and math is definitely not my strong point. Like I really have to study for math exam. Some of the other things came more natural to me, I think just because I enjoyed them. So like English was always like, I'm on top of it. I enjoyed reading. I loved poetry. I loved Shakespeare. I would read and do my little research and do my writing. And, I was into it. Math, I was like, oh, who's ever going to use anything past algebra? I'm like, why would I want to take trigonometry to do what? I'm not going to be a scientist. I'm not going to be that was already in my head because I'm like, I want to do law. So I know I got to be a good writer. It's like we pre-program, what do they call it? What's the term in psychology? Self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I already kind of knew where I wanted to go. And so I focused my energy in the political science and, all those kind of classes. And I think people have natural interests and natural strengths and weaknesses that, can be worked on. Speaking of which, please send Gigi in here to pick up her schoolwork. Where is Miss Stacy? Let me call her because I know if Gigi and I doing some schoolwork, she's doing something else unproductive. Let's bring her in to pick up her school book out of the office. So yes, I'm coming to the Seafarers. Give me a second. Before I start talking about all that adult content, let's get Gigi in here. Which room is she in? Alexa? Oh, come. Hi, Miss Gigi. Good morning. How are you? Hugs. Did you brush your teeth properly this morning? All right. Mwah. Look what I have for you. Some multiplication tables. So you can get some practice. All right, take your book over there. I printed off the chart for you so you can look. Try not to look, like the ones that you can do without looking.
What do you mean try not to?
Not to look at the multiplication. So, okay, what is 6 times 3? 3 times 6? 6 times 3? Same thing? You were doing the threes yesterday.
It's
Okay.
No, I did it this morning. So,
what's 3 times 2?
3 times 2 is 9. Oh, wait, what? 3 times 2 is 6.
My God. Take the worksheets, please. Take the chart and your book and your pencil, which is over there, and go practice. Sit down at the dining room table and get to work. All right. See you later. See you later. There will be no iPad time today if you don't finish all of these sheets.
Wait, how many sheets are there?
Just finish what's there. I didn't count them. Just finish them. And after you finish them, if you're using your chart, you have to finish them later on without the chart.
There's 7.
Yeah, good job. And do 5 pages in your book.
I can't do 7.
Why? You have nothing else to do today.
I do have stuff to do.
You have stuff to do?
On iPhone and
This isn't going to kill you. Hit the road.
I also have to do work with Miss Stacy.
Okay. All right. Start with this stuff first. All right, bye, Mama. Love you. Love you. Love you. Okay, goodbye. Close my door. Want another hug? All right. There you go. All right, stop delaying because I know what you're doing. You're delaying. Go on. All right, take your work though. Eat your breakfast and then take the work and do it after.
Because I only just woke up like 5.
I know, what a life. Ugh, sleeping in, out of school this week. Close the door. Thank you. Bye. Close the door properly, please. Miss Gigi, close the door properly, please. Child, what a mess. Yes, Miss Marva. Very hurtful, Miss Marva. What's hurtful? No, it is a matte look. I put on a little bit of lip gloss, but listen, I don't really care what y'all think about my lipstick. You do know this. I haven't even put on anything in my eyes lately. You notice I haven't been putting on any of my little mascara, doing my eyebrows. Good child, I don't got time for that. We got to get on with it. All right, let us get on with it. First of all, it would be remiss of me having this show today and not acknowledge that we've lost a friend to the show. Kathy Phillips was an amazing friend. She would always message me. She's one of those friends that, you know, I never went over to her house. We weren't that kind of friend, but we were WhatsApp friends. We were WhatsApp pals, and most certainly always messaging me on WhatsApp and social media. And, you know, just really having an amazing interaction. She always had, you know, thoughts about what was happening in this community, what was happening in this country. And I know that she had her own struggles. She worked at customs for a number of years, and she had issues, certainly in relation to them. And she also, you know, had some, in more recent years, some health issues. And the last time she messaged me was August the 1st, and she'd mentioned how she was trying to get some time overseas. So that, because basically here they were saying that there was nothing more that they could do for her. So she was trying to get overseas to Baptist. Unfortunately, with my travels and, you know, kind of getting back, I didn't get an opportunity to check in with her after that. So I was really, really saddened to hear, you know, of her passing yesterday. And I want to extend my condolences to her family, especially. And yeah, it's just very, very difficult. She does have a twin sister as well. And so, you know, special condolences to her twin. I think they were very, very different people, but, you know, at the end of the day, you can't get any closer than a twin. You started this journey in life together. So I'd like to extend my thoughts and condolences to her twin sister, Christy, Kathy and Christy. Oh gosh, I can't remember her twin's name now. But the twin and I, let's just say that we were like water and oil. She was always trying to get into something. Kathy and Christine. But you know, nonetheless, yeah, just really, really sad to hear that. She was a beautiful person. So condolences extended to her family. All right. If you're missing a plate, license plate, this plate 142129 has been found. Please message if this belongs to you. We can try to put you in contact with the person who has it. And yeah, let's talk about Seaman's. Christine, yes, thank you. Begins with a K. She spells it with a K. Mm-hmm. All right, folks. So let's talk about it. Seaman. So we have a real issue, and it was highlighted once again. You know, we've talked about in the past our seamen being subjected to abuse, and not just abuse, but also they're being used. Okay. So they are being used by individuals who see them as ripe for the taking. A lot of the individuals who use in them are not Caymanians. They are people who are coming from abroad who see an opportunity to get in good with an older person, a senior person, who a lot of times is just looking for affection, love, a little rub on the knee, a little rub on the penis. I mean, I don't know. Because some of these old men, they still want to try and get down with their Viagra. And we have to be honest, and let me say this. You have to know that just because you're 70 plus doesn't mean that you don't have a libido still, that you're not interested in sex. Let's not deny our seniors what we know they might be interested in. You know what is so funny is in nursing homes, there tends to be a very high instance of STDs because the old folks are in there grinding everything that they can, walking up on it. And it's like everybody ignores that they are still sexual beings. And so you ignore it to your own peril because they're not ignoring it. They are still doing their little thing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's probably best that we acknowledge that they have these needs, because when you don't acknowledge it and you deny them, their feelings and everything else, all you're doing is making them more open to being abused by somebody. Because God knows all they need is one little Filipino, one little Spaniard come along with little straight hair, honey child, cook them one little dinner. And then next thing you know, they're out here busting out again, walking with their little keen, holding on to the hand of a little Spanish 30-something-year-old or 40-something-year-old half their age. And as family members, I know y'all are looking at this going, oh God, Sandy, this is so wrong. This is so this is so that. Hey, I'm just saying they have needs. They have desires. They still want to go out. They still want to be around people. And I've seen some of these younger ones like really take care of them. They're able to get them out and about. They're able to, take them to senior events, and they're driving them, and they don't have to rely on children who have become too busy to pay their parents any mind. So there's something to be said for understanding the social context of what is happening to our seamen and our seniors, okay? The wife that they might have been with for 40-something years, that they went to sea with, was on the boat with them, all of a sudden passes away. And, they spent their entire life with them. And then all of a sudden they're alone in a house, in this big house. They don't have anybody to clean for them. They mightn't have necessarily a proper housekeeper who's going to cook and clean. They're just on their own. They're lonely. You can imagine spending 45 years with someone, and one day you wake up and that person has passed away. You're used to having a warm body in your bed. You're used to having companionship. You're used to all of this, and then one day it just disappears. So they're looking for something. Some of them horny AF, for real. They are looking for someone. And then there's nobody. They're just nobody. And some of them, it's not even about the sex, because some of them can't even get it up even with the blue pill. They can't do nothing. They can't even harm a little fly with what they got going on. They just want someone to be there with them. Someone that can watch the news, someone that they can talk to. And this is one of the reasons that you'll find that some of them ended up falling for the person who was there in the household as a domestic worker, because they've already developed a rapport and a relationship with those individuals. So it's easy for them to feel some kind of affinity towards them. Now, is that love? Well, who am I to say? You know what I'm saying? Y'all might be twirling to Tina Turner, "What Does Love Have to Do with It" song. I don't know. But what I know is it's an attachment. It's some kind of like, I like this personality, I like this person. And then on the other hand, I'm not going to categorize all of these domestic people or, young people into the same category, because I'm not going to say that you can't like an old wrinkle-up man. I mean, I don't really know. You might be attracted to that, but I would be willing to bet some money that most of those people, it's not about an attraction, it's about a better life. Okay? So they're going to be given a lifestyle. They're going to have a place to stay, no rent, honey child. All they have to do is a little bit of cooking and cleaning and, kind of take care of him. Make sure he takes his medication on time, chauffeur him around, drive him around. But some of them really hit the jackpot. Some of these seamen have worked their entire lives, 60 years. And they got a little something in the kitty. So here's a young thing now who's going to be willing to spend it all. And you're going to be taking trips and taking them out and this and that and all kind of thing. Taking them to dinner. They're not going to worry about food anymore. All of a sudden, the whole Filipino family's there because, once you take care of one, you got to they're very family oriented. So you got to take care of the whole family. The in-laws, the brother, this one. I've seen Caymanian men marry a Filipino woman, and they're so into it that her children become their children. Oh, my son, so-and-so. And I'm like, your son? I didn't know you had a son. I thought you only had one daughter. It's like, you got a son? Oh, yes, my wife's. I'm like, oh, that was, okay. Okay. And it is what it is. So listen, it's happening. It's happening, I think, for more reason than one. And it's happening more and more as our seniors are living longer and longer. And when one spouse passes away, they are ripe for the taking. Now, there's a couple of things I think logistically that could be put in place to really protect people from senior abuse and misuse, right? Children and even your current spouses, you need to have certain things in place that will ensure that if you die before your spouse and he's a seaman, that you really, really ensure that nobody can come and take your family home. I'm sorry, but I'm not about that. The matrimonial home, when he remarries, becomes the matrimonial home of that new younger wife. And of course, the chances are she's going to outlive him. And when she outlives him, then you know what that means. Her and her family take that. And that is now taken away from a Caymanian family. And I really feel aggrieved about that in the worst kind of way. Like it really gets under my skin. Okay. I'm just not feeling it. So put some protections in place so that the home remains as part of our Caymanian legacy. You were married to a Caymanian woman for 45 years, for 50 years, for 60 years. She passes away and dies. And then all of a sudden, here comes one little twinkle, lady from Saiba, from Cebu and the Philippines or wherever, and they're going to take your family home? No, Bobo. We got to talk to lawyers to see how we can avoid that type of situation. Now, from a government perspective, there are also abuses that are happening. And so you can't always assume that at that age that these seniors are going to be making the best possible decisions. In the Public Accounts Committee recently, it was highlighted, and I want you guys to listen to this because this is really quite shocking, but it was highlighted that a large amount of, let me just see if I can pull up my document here for reference, over $3 million is being spent on our seamen, but more interestingly enough is the fact that the budget for them is increasing as opposed to decreasing. Now, I know you're saying to me, Auntie, how is that possible? How can the budget be increasing when they all dying out? Well, it is because the benefit is being, it's 3.3. They had to, let's back it up. There was a detailed discussion on the Seamen's and Veterans benefit recorded under TP 47 ex gratia payments to seafarers and veterans for a supplementary appropriation supplementary appropriation of $3.3 million. Okay. This is concerning, right? Because that means that we are, quite frankly, hemorrhaging money at our Seamans. The benefit to them is increasing, right? Y'all know what supplementary appropriation means? That means that there was an additional allocation of that $3.3 million government funds outside of the regular budget. So that is to cover urgent, unforeseen, and underfunded needs during a financial year. That's why you request and get supplementary appropriation. So that's not the whole budget. I'm saying that was an additional supplementary appropriation of $3.3 million. This is crazy. We are hemorrhaging money. Let me see here now. We are hemorrhaging money around the seniors. And quite frankly, where the problem comes in is that it is the fact that they keep marrying younger and younger women. And so although they themselves are dying out, the benefit now goes to the new wife. And that is like, she's going to be living for another 16, 17 years. It's a continuation. All right. Now, to be fair, some of this additional $3.3 million goes back to Julie's, excessive spending. So she did increase the stipend, and that was implemented last year. They increased these fees and don't think about where the money is going to come from. One moment, please. Don't think about where the money is going to come from, and it burdens future governments on how they are actually going to provide for whatever that allocation is. So that was part of the increase in the budget. The 3.3 is because of this stipend, the increased stipend. And the second part of it, which is really what I want to focus on here today, is the continuing number of new applicants and spouses being added to the register of Seaman. That list is growing. So as of August 2025, there are roughly 860 to 870 recipients, fluctuating slightly month to month. 11 new recipients were added this year. And although there are decreases in the number of recipients because of deaths of recipients, their increases come from the newly approved Seaman and registered spouses. Honey child. This is the notes from September the 25th Public Accounts Committee. So the registered spouses are accounting for a large part of this increase. And I'm here to tell y'all today that this is not a sustainable situation. Okay? But unless they change the law, yeah, it's a problem. Now, one of the debates that came out, new versus original spouses. So legislators raised concern that some new spouses, including marriages after the seafaring years, are gaining benefits that the former Caymanian wives who bore the hardship, raised the children, and helped build homes did not even receive themselves. I want y'all to have that sink in for a minute. Okay? This is a problem. So the original wife who was there with him during the seafaring years got all the headaches when he had no money, when there was no Seafarers Association, when there were no benefits, living on the little 10 pence and shillings and whatever that they had back in those days going out to sea. That wife went through it with him. She raised his children, bore his children, raised his children, put up with him probably being drunken and slobberly, traveling all over the world, probably having kids all over the world too, fornicating, do whatever. She went through it with him. Now in his old age, she's either passed away and never got any benefits from it, or sometimes they are divorcing and leaving those wives to pick up a young new thing. And so those young new things now get the benefit and are getting registered on the registry, and they will have the benefit for the rest of their lives. Their question that we really need to ask ourselves today is, does this need to stop? Does the government need to put a stop to this? A lot of the MPs are in agreement that this is a long-standing injustice, and there needs to be policy reform. Why it hasn't been done? Okay. So, of course, they're calling for a study and policy review to distinguish eligible spouses, so those who were married during the active seafaring years, versus what they say now is the newcomer spouses, and exploring restorative or bridging benefits for the original Caymanian wives out of the assistance program. Now, this is a problem. Who's the minister responsible for this, by the way? Because apparently the minister made a comment that the issue is under review, acknowledging that it's an age-old problem. Once again, age-old problems for politicians that they don't seem to address, right? This government is just in, but why didn't the previous government even start to address this? Now, I think it was Madam Juliana O'Connor Conley, because, you know, she's of the opinion that how we fix the problem is just throw money at it, because she believes that money grows on trees. The rest of us know from personal experience that money does not grow on trees. And so we also know that, hold on one second. We also know that when the government feels like money grows on trees, that it is something that's going to affect us and our pocket and our bottom line. Because the more government hemorrhages money, the more you and I are going to be up shit creek without a paddle. Because we're going to have increase in our government fees to be able to fund the seafarers' benefits. Because, you know, this is all part of the government budget now. And we're paying for newcomers, nothing to them, because they've recognized a loophole in the system, and they're going to take full advantage of it. Honey chill. Let's do a straw poll this morning, because the question has to be asked. Because look at the solution that she is, and I believe it's her. If correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that she made the suggestion in Finance Committee that they add the old wives. That's her solution, is add the old wives. No mention of, pump the brakes here, honey child, because you know how much more it's going to grow if you turn around and add the old wives. Maybe that's not the solution. The solution is take off the new wife and that benefit. And, in law, you might not be able to add the old wife depending on how they lost the benefit to begin with. So if they're no longer married to them, then you lose certain benefits during a divorce, right? And it is what it is. Just like when you're no longer married, that pension, when he dies, isn't going to go to you. It's going to go to the new wife. So I'm personally not in agreement with the solution is adding even more to the budget that includes the old wives. No, you lost your right when the two of you got a divorce, and that's the nature of divorces. That's how that works. But the question really is, should we implement something in place where the new wife does not get his Seaman's benefits extended to her? Hear me now. So we got to word this correctly, right? Should we remove the ability for second wives, assuming that, they would have been married before, So second wives or anyone who comes when he's a non-active seaman. You know what I mean? So let's say by some stretch of the imagination, you have a Caymanian in his, what would that be? In his 70s who was never married before. Because we can't say first wife because, you know, so we'll have to remove second wives / anyone who marries him now that he's a retired seaman. He's not an active seaman. How can I word that? I need to find a better way of wording that. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy.
How you doing?
I'm doing. Forgive me, I got a little bit of sinus.
Oh, yeah, I've been having that too. I think it's the weather.
It is the weather. So lovely topic you have today. If you recall, maybe it was last year, I brought the same issue up where I was giving an older lady a ride from the Bordentown area down to the NAU office. And she was explaining to me a similar circumstance where, you know, my ex-husband, you know, now I've lost everything. I don't even get the Seaman's benefit. He's gone and married a younger thing with baby kids. And now that benefit that I used to kind of get, I no longer am able to benefit from. My question to the government, and I mean, we can sit here and debate who is responsible for changing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the past government can no longer do anything. It has to be whatever government is current.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody has to take the bull by the horns, but I am in total agreement, and I don't know if anybody would disagree with you today that the solution is not, well, just bring them all in, just add them all on.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
What if he had 4 wives? What if he had 4 wives? That's the reality.
Yeah, because enough of them marrying more than once, I can tell you that.
Well, because they're just out there, just picking them up. They're being the Elizabeth Taylors of Cayman. So what I'm saying is, why are we, because to me, the Seaman's benefit is I don't want to say reward, but I can't think of a better word right now, is our reward to these men who helped build this country.
Yeah.
And by extension...
And those new wives are nowhere to be found.
But this is it. In a lot of cases, they didn't even know where Cayman was. That's number one. Number two,
they wasn't even born.
They weren't even born when the man was serving as a seaman. So what are we rewarding them for? What are they reaping the benefit for? Taking care of somebody's old husband?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The benefit must go. And because I know the legal jargon and the legalese speak and all of that can be so finicky, it has to be worded in such a way that it has to be the wife that was the wife during your time of service. There is no other way to word it. I'm sorry. If your Johnny come late, the wife feels disenfranchised, then set up a trust fund for her. But it shouldn't be the responsibility of the Cayman Islands government and its people and all of the taxpaying people. I know they say we don't pay taxes, but we do indirectly. To support these Johnny come late wives and all of their baby kids and their 14 family members coming from East Jabib. We shouldn't be doing this. We're displacing, and we hear about the wives, the wives who've passed on. What we don't hear an awful lot about are the wives who are still alive and are struggling, struggling to make ends meet. And some cute sis from God knows where is getting the benefit of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that old lady now who was here, built this country while he was out to sea and, like what you said, finagling and doing God knows what. Some of them, I won't say all of them, but at the end of the day, our responsibility should be to the people who built this country, not just the seamen, but the women who gave up their lives for moving on to tertiary education, moving on to massive careers. They built this country, whether the seamen like it or not. They built this country. They held the fort down. They raised the children. They swept the yard. They cooked the food. They held it together. And the reward that we give them is a swift kick in the behind because he decided he wanted to move on. That's fine. But let us fix that section of the law that says the only spouse that would benefit from it would be the spouse who was the spouse at the time of the seaman's tenure. Want to see how much of them gonna have a wife? They ain't gonna have none. They ain't gonna have
Honey
none.
child, we come into
Right?
that. There's
The
something here that is
enticement,
tied into this, quite frankly. Yeah.
the enticement and the allurement of free money from people who are and I'm just gonna say this, I'm not gonna single out any one nationality, but they know themselves. They're lured.
Uh-oh. Somehow she started calling somebody else. All right, we got another caller who's trying to get in. Let me just return their call. They called twice. So should spouses who marry a seaman after he has retired or stopped working at sea be entitled? Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
I can't hear you. Say that again, dear.
Okay. And one gets divorced, the spouse, if they've been married X amount of years, the spouse automatically gets half of the Social Security at the time of the divorce. So
this is where, in the States?
This is Canada.
Oh, in Canada. Okay.
Yeah. So first wife would get automatically half of that seaman.
Okay.
So that there is no full seaman to go on passed down. That would reduce the debt by half immediately. So that's one way that they can look at it. Because this has been a very bad topic for me as well, because I've had brothers and whatnot that fell into there. But yes, that is one way of doing it. That automatically, if you're getting a divorce or you're a seaman, half of that seaman's pension must go toward the president's wife. That was there after X amount of years. Okay? Just a thought. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much. So the question is, the new wife, should they be permitted to essentially get that benefit? That really is the question here that we need to be asking ourselves. So thanks to that caller. She shared how it happens in Canada, where the first wife automatically gets a good portion of their pension or their Social Security. We're not talking about pension or Social Security here. We're talking about a fund that they're not directly contributing to, that is part of the, as the previous caller said, the people of the Cayman Islands have said, right, we understand the important role that our seamen have played in our history, and we want to thank them. So this is a benefit that we have given them. And the question now becomes, this is the question, should that benefit extend to people who they were not even around when any of this was happening? They didn't know nothing about Cayman. They probably weren't even born back then. Because like I said, given the age at which some of these individuals are now, marrying, they're marrying children young enough to be children. They're marrying individuals young enough to be their children, or in some instances, even a grandchild. That's the age gap, right? Leave our feelings aside about that for a minute. They're two consenting adults. The question is really, this is a growing burden on the people, plain and simple says, and the seaman's pension should not be paid to them either, as they were not married to those men they were shipping out to sea. So what hardship and inconvenience did these new wives suffer? So the pension situation is a little bit different, because you cannot change it for just seamen. You'd have to change it for everyone. And I think that is a much different situation, because the understanding is, once you've divorced someone, in the divorce settlement legally, you settle whatever they're going to get. All right. So they might take the house, they might take this, whatever. The court will decide what is equitable for the women, especially in a divorce, to get. So they may force the sale of the house, of the family home, the marital home, and then that spouse gets like half of that. That could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, that could be more than she would ever get even from a pension. So I don't know that you can mandate, and I don't know that necessarily it's fair, the right thing to do, to mandate the same thing with pensions. But we're talking about Seaman's benefits, which is a government dictated benefit. We, the people, are paying directly into that. That's government coffers. So the question there becomes, should we now amend the law to prevent these new wives from getting it? Now, the old wife might not get it either, because that's what the law says right now. So, we might have to tweak this. The old wife isn't going to get it either, but surely a new wife will definitely not be getting it. El Rey says, shouldn't the number of veterans be declining? Well, they're Seamans. So the number of them is declining, but the beneficiaries under the Seaman's benefit is actually increasing because they are adding these new wives. Okay. So through the Public Accounts Committee, they have admitted that there is an issue. They need to distinguish eligible spouses, those married during active seafaring years, so there could be a policy change there. Explore restorative or bridging benefits for original Caymanian wives left out of the assistance program. So supposedly the issue is under review, and it has been acknowledged that it's an age-old problem that previous administrations did not touch. Wow. $3.3 million in supplementary funding marks a growth, not a reduction, in the Seamen's and veterans expenditures, contrary to the expectations that the program costs would actually diminish as the population aged. That's what we expect, El Rey, but that's not what's happening. Ms. Marjorie says kaboom for the subject of seamen and the abuse of the system and the seamen themselves. And can we sustain this expenditure marrying young women? Crazy. It's not a sustainable position unless we want the country to go broke. The other thing that someone has said, and I think this is a fair and equitable point, let me bring this comment in because, this makes sense. Hold on one second. Let me see. This person had the following to say. These old men looking young gals. I need find one. A young gal or an old man? Look upon the one. Oh, Lord, I didn't realize his. I don't want us to mention any names because there are a lot of people who fall into this situation. So I don't want you to single out any individual one of them. Okay. We don't want them to feel bad this morning, but yes, he is one of many. So, I'll cut out past that comment. I did not see that there. So hold on a second, honey child. Don't mention any names. Everybody knows. We got the list. We know who they are. But let's not put that out there. Let me start from the line after that. Okay. All right. Let me re-grab that for you. Hot tamales. Okay, honey child. Anyway, let me make sure this is the right one now. Yes, he pretty much adopted the Filipino wife's children. Who is responsible for putting the checks in place, government or the man? Because to many of these men, the men are so fool and they don't put the necessary paperwork in place. The numbers are increasing because more persons are coming forward for assistance. They only had 11 new added this year. It's not sustainable. This isn't an issue. It's more policy payout. Go to the current spouse. And which policy acknowledges an ex-spouse? Amen. The new wife shouldn't get shit, I think is what they meant to say. It would eliminate marriages of convenience, stick a pin, And the old men are now even adopting the new wife's children, allowing them to get their Caymanian benefits, such as free education and scholarships. I mean, it's a little bit tricky when you marry someone because they are supposed to get all these benefits. Are you going to say that a Caymanian who's 35, who marries a 32-year-old from another country, it's okay for them to get the benefits and children and whatever, but an old man, just because he's old, that if he marries a young teen, her and her children are not going to get the benefits? It's a good question. I don't think we can discriminate against those lines. So when it comes to the rest of this, like the adopting of children, all this kind of stuff, if we're going to put perimeters in place, it has to impact and cover everyone, not just the seamen and the veterans. And you're going to have a lot of Caymanian men and women saying, hold on, if I marry him, of course, his children become my children and are entitled to this, that, and the next thing. In most instances, they're not legally adopting those children. Maybe that should be a requirement. Maybe there should be a legal adoption of the children for it to be applicable, because then what you do, if you tie in, you have to legally adopt these children in order for them to be able to gain this benefit. At least you leave out adult children, right? Because you can't go to court and say, I want to adopt a 25-year-old. You can only adopt minor children. So then at least those people will not become Caymanians and will not get all these benefits, etc. So we got to think carefully about this, because there are implications on changing it in both directions. And we want to make sure that we don't change it so that it becomes a worse situation than it already is. But there's one thing that this listener to the program has said, and that is in relation to marriages of convenience. A lot of these women, for them, it is definitely a marriage of convenience, and they're not even loyal. Remember Tutu and Toto and whatever that situation was? That's why I'm like, why are you marrying a woman 20 years your junior and thinking that she gonna be loyal to you? Of course, she naked in bed with another senior Caymanian. He probably can get it up a little bit more than you. But she's just using you. You're paying for a house in Honduras. I have had more and more of these seniors, some of them coming to their senses. Because I tell you what, some of these women are in it for the long haul. They can be real nice to them for 20 years. And then when they're living a little bit too long, their true colors start to show. I know one guy bought in town. He finally divorced her and got rid of her. But boy, she wanted him to pay for a house in Honduras and this and that and whatever. And he's on NAU, on his little Seaman's benefit, and don't hardly make no money. But she was prepared to take his ass to the cleaners. And if you believe he's the only example, I can tell you what, it's a lot of them out there. We got a caller in the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. So sad.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Brenda. How are you?
Oh, I'm grateful.
Good. I'm going to pull up my little thing here while you're speaking too, so people can vote in this poll. Yes, my dear honey child.
Okay. First of all, let us realize that the laws of marriage are completely different than the policies implemented by government. So while the government cannot dictate the laws or conditions of a marriage, they certainly can dictate the policies of the government, especially when it comes to the money, because the money does not belong to the elected members. It belongs to the country. So I say that if a seaman, and I'll say this too, perhaps a lot of people will not agree with me. I don't think that everyone who went to sea should be getting that grant. I think if you went to sea for a certain amount of years, you know, if you only went out for one spell and came back in, I don't think you should qualify. But that's water under the bridge. However, my opinion is that the money should be paid to the Caymanian wives, because that's what they were back then. And if the older man decides that he's going to divorce her Because now she's still alive. Well, if the second wife is a generational Caymanian, then you split between the two. If the second wife is not a Caymanian, then let the money go back to the fund. And they spread it around the others who deserve it. And the government can make that change because that has nothing to do with the laws of the marriage. And I would take it a step further to say that make sure that that marriage is also one that is stable and intact. Although we know that the second wife is not going to be Caymanian. So we don't even have to worry about whether she's generational. So I would monitor that marriage, just like immigration does with when the other ones come in, they have to keep going there and proving that the marriage is stable and intact. That is what I would do. Otherwise, and I'm speaking about in the case of a divorce, otherwise you cut him off too. That's not his money. It's the people's money. And as someone said, for the lack of a better word, it's a reward to them. So I think they should also respect the fact that it is not their money. And they should not be taking their country's money and throwing it around, but somewhere else is going to benefit from it. I can think of many Caymanian children who should and certainly could be benefiting from that money.
Thank you, my dear. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So K-Mankind says definitely stop it. Kaboom says K-Mankind. Melita says, San, I love your wig. It looks so healthy and full of shine. Now, this girl know I don't wear no wigs, honey child. But I will be wearing one for my Aunt Lottie segment. I got an old lady wig. I'm going to try my best to wear that because Lord knows I'm not a wig person. But that'll just be like, I'll just put it on top for a hot minute. The real Michelle says, but the pensioner is a beneficiary of a fund held in trust by the trustees, not the legal owner. Therefore, a new wife can be a beneficiary too. So that's why I don't want to muddle the waters, the real Michelle, in terms of pension and Seaman's benefits. So for today's purposes, let's keep the conversation, to Seaman's benefits, right? Vanessa, who's worked in pension, says once you divorce, you're losing all the rights. Well, I mean, that's what divorces are about. I hate to tell you. But if you divorced and kept all the rights, what would be the purpose of a divorce even? Or even getting, okay. And it should not be paid to anyone under the legal retirement age, says plain and straight. See, some people thought that when the seaman dies, his benefit was going to die with him. No, honey child. Miss Michelle says 100% agree with the caller. This listener to the program says, morning, Sandy. Absolutely, the law should be amended ASAP so that the new wife doesn't benefit and make retroactive to help decrease marriages of convenience. Then we should adopt what Bermuda does. I understand that Bermuda citizenship can only be gotten through marriage for the first wife. So that you can only get it once. Oh, that would stop certain family members of mine being able to marry all 4 or 5 times. Oh, because those guys think eventually they're going to get Cayman status. Here's another comment. The seaman's money should stop if their spouse, when they were at sea, dies. No lady should come here, married to seaman, because they open up those old men's appetite for their hot ways. Lord Jesus, just how that was worded is so funny. The young women come here, see that $1,500 a month plus insurance. It's easy, and they're grabbing them. Sandy, those old men can't even raise the national anthem, talking about a stiff, the C word. What is saying? They can't even raise the national anthem. Lord Jesus. Sandy, the money should die when the seaman dies if his original wife is dead. No young wife should continue to receive it. Good morning, caller. Are you raising to the national anthem this morning? Give a salute.
No,
I am not. I am not. But I agree with that commenter.
Oh
But
my
I just want
God.
to tell Miss Brenda
You said the
that she's
Viagra working wonders these days, I hear.
Girl, some of them can't even get it up if you held it up. Stop talking crap. Viagra can't help them. But anyway, lest I digress.
God.
I just want to tell Miss Brenda that one of these days her and I are going to go on a long lunch date because we got a lot to talk about because I just think she's so knowledgeable. So connect us, Sandy. Connect us. Make it work. Right? She's my second favorite caller.
She loves a Volvo. So if you got a Volvo to drive her to lunch in.
I got a Honda, but we can rent a Volvo. We can borrow that beautiful Mercedes. You don't worry. We'll be up there. We take her for a spin. What about you? But back to what Miss Brenda, I got cut off earlier. Sorry about that. Back to what Miss Brenda said. And she said that, and I only felt the need to chime in because I think that, like you said, we don't want to create laws that are so exclusionary that we end up in a worse predicament than where we are.
Yeah.
And she mentioned something that I think is critical to bring up. And she said, if the second wife is a generational Caymanian, then that wife should also be entitled to the benefit. The problem that I see with doing that, and I'm sure there's somebody who is far more learned than I am who can elaborate, maybe Mr. Balika, hint. The problem that I think that we will get into is when we put in these terms as generational Caymanian, those terms haven't even been defined by legislation. Exactly. That hasn't been defined by legislation.
Exactly.
And I don't think
you couldn't get away with it legally. I was thinking
but
that.
I don't believe that we will ever get to a place that we can define what generational Caymanian is, because they're going to be varying degrees and people are going to have feelings. It's going to be very emotive. But to even say the first wife
and they're going to start to legally challenge it too when she starts to split it that way. And they will win.
Well, to say that the first wife has to be Caymanian is going to be discriminatory. It's not going to suffice under the Human Rights Act. So they're going to come and pick apart that piece of legislation from several angles, and we're going to find ourselves in breach of human rights because that is outright discrimination. Whether we like it or not, it's outright discrimination because you don't get to dictate to someone whether they marry a Chinese, Filipino, Jamaican,
exactly.
Caymanian.
That's on them. But what you do is you remove what a lot of these people who are from, poor situations, you remove what's attracting them to the seaman, because I can tell you not a wrinkle up PP and not a wrinkle up face. And it's most instances it's not even their personality, right? So you remove all of those things that make them attractive from a marriage's convenience perspective.
If the benefit should die, the benefit dies when the seaman dies and is only extended to the wife who was the seaman who was the wife at the time of his tenure. I completely agree. Miss Brenda that went out, Miss Seaman that went out on a one trip, turned around in the harbor. There were no seamen. They were on a boat trip. And they're collecting $1,500 a month. I think it diminishes tremendously the actual people who went on the national boat carriers, who shipwrecked and all of those things. And we know about the seamen who are actually able to get onto it. But you know who we don't speak about? The seamen who don't get onto that benefit because, God forbid, he happened to have a little bit of ambition. And we know how expensive Cayman is. He happened to have a little ambition, put aside $2 and is able to buy food and pay his light bill. Can't do much else. Buy food and pay his light bill. He isn't entitled to that benefit, right? That's one aspect of people that I think are being missed. A second set of the people who are being missed, and I can speak particularly to this in my West Bay community. Anybody that takes offense to it, well, forgive me. We have a very large population. I think I would dare say the majority of them have passed on. But we have a lot of special needs children in our or now adults in our community who would have been children of these seamen. So the seaman has died or has gone on to marry a new baby kid who has another family, but they've left an adult child with, in a lot of instances, severe special needs. And some baby kid from East Jabib is getting that benefit. Why haven't we looked at this in its entirety and holistically? Like, we could easily double that benefit without addressing or adjusting the law and making it very exclusionary, obviously not discriminatory, but exclusionary and retroactive, because I believe it was on a Sabrina Speaks show that Mr. Balika commented not specifically to this, but speaking to retroactive legislation, and just, not to insult anybody, but that is, to say from way back then or from a specific date, you are entitled to create retroactive legislation. And we are so afraid to make a decision because we are so afraid of offending or, pissing off someone. But I think we've left so many women disenfranchised. And I dare say there are more of these wives, first wives, I'll call them that in this instance, of seamen, disenfranchised by these new marriages and this slash of benefits. Thank you to the caller who called in, who spoke about the way that the benefit works in Canada, because I think that that's a perfect way to do it. These women should not, like I said, I want to reiterate, they were the backbones of this country. There's a wall dedicated to, the women who went out to march to have the right to vote. Those husbands were out to sea.
Yeah.
Those husbands were out to sea. And this is what they've done. We have Miss Sybil McLaughlin, Miss Edna Moyle, just to name two, who fought tooth and nail to bring this country forward. And I dare say, and I don't think I'll have many people disagree with me, they were the backbones of this country, who built this country while those men were, yes, the financial backbone, but we built it. Houses, cars, schools.
Somebody said even their special needs adults are taken care of by NAU. What a hot mess. Well, I got a few messages for you.
Where are we going?
Yeah. Miss Brenda says Viagra can't raise the dead. She also says, tell your call that we can have lunch if you're going to pay for it, because I don't receive any NAU.
Me either, Miss Brenda, but we don't work it outside. They're going to sponsor us.
She also said, I said all the first wives were Caymanian. Let's remember not to confuse policies with laws.
Absolutely.
All right. Leave me there. Appreciate it.
All right.
Another listener to the program says we need to keep it simple and just say, no benefits for any subsequent wives. So only the first wife, regardless of where she's from, only the first wife would get the benefit. And secondly, I think also the benefit should die with the seaman. I mean, we got to learn how to cut off support. When we're talking about NAU and financial assistance, it's not meant to be a lifelong thing, Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. You all wake me up.
Oh, gosh.
It's not only the Seaman pension, any pension at all, whether from mother or from father, as long as they have children. I hear the government down there talking about husband, children cannot get pension. And whether the wife or the husband and any pension at all they are getting, it's supposed to leave for their children. Because some of these no good husband, all they just sit down and waiting to kill off people, stress out, and when they don't get what they got. The children supposed to get it.
Oh, okay. She hung up. I was still processing her comments, but okay then. All right, honey child. Okay. So, again, speaking specifically to the Seamen's and Veterans benefit here this morning, I think that there's good consensus. I'm getting the poll ready for you guys to vote in that. Let me share the link. There's good consensus here that, we got to do better. Okay. Let's do the QR code. You can scan this and vote. And let me see here. Vote for a question this morning. So I've tried to simplify the question because it was getting a little bit confusing. But the question for the poll, that's the QR code. And let me get the link as well. So the question this morning is, should spouses who marry a seaman after he has retired or stopped working at sea be entitled to Seaman's benefits. Now, here's the thing. This is where, folks, you got to be careful, because even if we say no, if the second wife's a Caymanian, that's okay. Some of these folks that we're talking about have already gotten their Cayman status because grandpa, not their first time at the rodeo. So they married somebody younger, probably got one house out of them or their kids out of them or whatever. And they got status out of them. So now they're coming with their Cayman status. So by law, they're Caymanian. So that's why you can't say, oh, if she's not a Caymanian. No, by law, here they come now, they're Caymanian. And then they got to latch on to him to try to get taken care of for the rest of their lives. You know how much money alone having the benefit for some of these individuals, like a lifetime cynical benefit, how that benefits them? Not for nothing, but I'm just saying. So there's a QR code. Let me put the link in the comment section as well. And you know what is so sad is some of these seamen end up becoming estranged from their own children as a result of these second, third, and fourth marriages with these young things. Because like I said, listen to me now. Hear me good. When you are sleeping in bed with a man, okay, I don't care if it's dead or not, Miss Brenda, you're sleeping there, you're getting up every morning, getting his coffee, because they latch on to these men. They're with them 24/7. You know how easy it is to wear down anybody if you're around them 24/7? Yeah. Them girls be working their magic, twerking it, working it, whatever. So it's not easy for these men to think objectively and clearly after they get embroiled in a situation. So I can understand why they're adopting their children and all this kind of stuff. They're not thinking clearly, not at all. Right? Oh, she's taking care of me into my old age. Where are my kids? They don't realize their kids out there hustling, trying to find a place to buy in Cayman these days. Now she's going to inherit everything, inherit businesses. Some of them set these things up. They have people working for them. And as soon as the wife dies, they're like, oh, I want you to meet my sister, who is, also here on a work permit. And they set it up. It's a whole thing. Y'all have got to be careful. Barbara says, I have an ex-sister-in-law that I had not seen for years, over 10 years before my brother died. And she was not at the funeral, but is, as far as I know, receiving his Seaman's benefits. Now, in a case like that, does it really matter to you if she's a Caymanian or not? Come on now. That's not right. An ex-sister-in-law, not involved in the man's life for years. Y'all gotta curtail it. Here's another one. My mother-in-law, lots of in-laws getting exposed here today. My mother-in-law, deceased, was a helper for a Seaman/US veteran in Cayman Brac. He married her just so that she could get his benefits. When she passed away, money was still going to her account, and her sister was conveniently using her debit card because she had the PIN number during her illness. You see the abuses? Yeah. So how is someone deregistered or removed? Because as soon as she died, that should have been done. But who do you think is going to jump up, especially not the sister, jump up and notify the government that this woman has even died? They need to have monthly audits on these sorts of things. El Rey says all them young women should be entitled to the Seaman's benefits. Mm-hmm. You must mean the benefit that he can't even get jump started with Viagra? That only benefit they should get, little PP, which they don't really want. So Lavana says, my 2 cents is when the Seaman passes, their benefits should be done as well, especially with these young women. They're young, go out and work. Gabby says standing up and not, you're married for better, for worse. You devoted yourself to the man. to that man, standing up or not, I think. Okay. You married for better or worse, and you devoted. But Gabby, the point we're trying to make is these women, that is not even a concern for them. They don't care. And in fact, most of them are much happier with him not being able to stand up, because then that's one less thing that they have to do for him. It's just a marriage of convenience. El Rey says that's why Seaman need Viagra subsidy to try and wear down them young women. Lord have mercy. Strong Wilt says, taught the thing, Sandy, and driving better car than we. Yep, they're living the life. Miss Brenda says, Lavana, total 100% agree with you. Just me 101. Good morning, says Sandra. I know of a situation where the new wife of a seaman married the man, cremate the man, and didn't involve the immediate family that was there for him through it all, now receiving his benefits. The system needs to fix. Without a doubt. Lord Jesus. This is an example of old Cayman seaman with the young wives. Video below. Papa can't move. Hold on. Let me download it. Let me see what we got here. And this looks funny. Let me see if I can download this. 1 second. 1 second here, honey. Chill. Okay, let me download this so we can see what this is all about. Why is the first wife's benefits? Why is the first wife benefits now become an issue? It's because the cost of living is getting too high and persons are not able to survive, which would also be the reason why new applications are being made by seafarers who haven't applied before. These men looking a nurse. Well, I mean, sometimes they are looking a nurse. And in fact, you know, what can I say? That's why I say that, you know, maybe some of you also need to ensure that your seniors are being adequately looked after and they're less likely to be finagled into a relationship. Now, having said that, let me also throw this out there, because I think this is worth mentioning as well. There are okay, let me give you another story. I'm aware of a situation with this Jamaican lady. She was the helper in the house. And even as the helper, not married to the man, but even as the helper, she was getting the senior gentleman to sign over to her all of his assets. And he had houses and property and all kind of stuff over the years that he had purchased. And because she was there with him day in and day out, you don't know what kind of stuff they be slipping him, child. Slipping him a little piece of paper. Oh, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Ebanks, sign this document, sign that document. And so, yeah, she was also finagling him and getting the benefits of, you know, his hard years of work. Eventually, the daughter and children became aware of this and they had to put a stop to it. But can I tell you, by the time they became aware, she already had transferred multiple pieces in her own name. And guess what? There was nothing really that could be done. He knew what he was doing. So everyone figures, oh, you know, when he dies, sorry, we'll have a will in his name, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you know, we'll get it sorted out. No. That's not what was happening. She was well on her way to taking every piece of land that this man had. I'm trying to download this video. Give me 1 second. And I thought to myself, OMG, I think she transferred about 3 or 4 parcels in her name. Y'all better keep an eye on you folks. Yep. Another situation that I know of. This one is pretty wild. The family, you know, the wife died, tragic situation. And then the helper, again, Filipino lady, not for nothing, started to do certain things to the father. And the daughter said, no, we're not letting this happen. Got rid of her real quick. Get out of here. And then what she did was the daughter moved into the neighborhood so that she could be closer to her father to keep an eye on these so-called helpers. So that now every single day she goes and makes sure that she visits the father. No more live-in helper at this stage, right? You come in the morning, you go, so you're not in his ear 24/7, especially after dark. He's not at that stage yet where he needs a full-time, you know? So don't make him live in, because once they live in, that'll end of that. All right. Here's this one. This said this is what a Cayman seaman be like. What the hell? And then they all tag team him now. What the hell? You know how you know how when you see something you got played a couple times for it to really sink in? Oh my God, that's so funny. Lots of Caymanian names being called. Another person said so-and-so. He's another one after so-and-so died. Married one before she was even buried. Don't like how he's with the girl. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's another one. I know what you mean. Her body wasn't even warm yet. Wow. Which, I mean, not for nothing, but in that situation, everybody said when he married that helper before his wife's body was even warm, that they believed something was going on there before she died. Not for nothing, but we know. That didn't sound right from the jump. Damien says, say no to seaman passing on, selfish seaman. That's not how you spell that, seaman, but yeah, that's an interesting article. You should read it. When the music hits, you feel no pain. Poor fella. He looked like he can barely hold on. Another comment, the old Caymanian village of people looking after each other needs to come back. Oh, Lord, what a mess. All right, folks. I mean, what else can I say about this? You know, we need to rein it in. There's some issues there. There was also the issue of digital gap amongst the original wives. So some of the original Caymanian wives received recognition of extra support. You know, again, I don't think that that's the solution in terms of the budget, but they don't oftentimes know how to go and fill out online applications and that sort of thing. So we're looking for policy reset, hopefully, on this, and for greater transparency, and the data around this as well should really be put into the public domain. So listen to this. My apologies. The Seaman's program was cited as part of a wider structural welfare expansion with over $100 million in social expenditures projected this year across related categories. Shoot, that's a lot. And then there's this unintended cost creep, which began as a finite diminishing benefit, or that's what they thought, is now a steady upward pressure due to liberal eligibility criteria, and insufficient vetting of spousal claims. Oh, and then there's an equity and oversight deficit potentially, and we need some urgent policy audit around this. So I'm going to do an editorial on this. I'll put up one of my AI editorials a little bit later on. For those of you who enjoy those, you can comment on that. And for those of you who don't enjoy it, shut the fuck up because nobody cares. Y'all be complaining, oh, your AI. Listen, AI is getting better by the day. Y'all sit there. You worried about AI? Look at my AI Filipino. I didn't have to get a work permit for this one. Here's my AI Filipino. Look.
Kapanapanabik oras ay nangyayari dito mismo Cayman Mile Road at gusto naming maging bahagi ka nito. Naghahanap kami masigasig at malikhaing tagalikha nilalaman mula komunidad Filipino gustong tumulong sa amin. Isulong pagkakaiba-iba, kultura at koneksyon komunidad buong Cayman Islands. Kung pinangarap mong mag-host sarili mong palabas, magbahagi nakaka-inspire kwento o magpakita pagmamalaki Pilipino, ito na ang iyong sandali. Naghahanap ang CMR TV ng mga malikhain at independenteng tagalikha ng nilalaman na handang magsama-sama at gumawa ng lingguhang palabas na ipinagdiriwang ang karanasang Pilipino sa Cayman at higit pa. Kaya't kung mayroon kang talento, mga ideya at lakas, gusto naming marinig mula sa iyo. Sumali sa pamilya ng CMR habang patuloy tayong lumalago, kumonekta at kumakatawan sa bawat sulok ng ating masiglang komunidad.
All right, honey shell. No work permit required. Take that. Marshall says a lot of children, and fluent too, don't look at their elderly parents, but when a younger woman comes along to take care of them, then they want to make a stink of the situation when they should have paid attention from the beginning. That's true too. Like I said, in most of these instances, if the elderly people were having a social life and they were getting out, they were doing stuff, they wouldn't necessarily feel the excessive need to have someone take care of them. But y'all allow this to happen to a large extent as well. Anyway, folks, CMR TV, we're making some strides, praise the Lord. And, I can hire talent from anywhere in the world, practically speaking, any language in the world, because that is where the technology is. And I absolutely love it. I might do an AI entire talk show with just AI characters in Spanish. That's going to blow y'all mind because the technology is there and you can easily do it. So y'all sit there while you're criticizing. I'm going to teach y'all a couple things with expansion of CMR, how we doing it. AI taking your jobs left, right, and center. And it's also taking the jobs of work permit holders too. Because like I said, I got a complete voiceover and he looks pretty good too. Let me tell you something, my little Filipino guy, not too bad looking. Let me look at him.
Kapanapanabik oras ay nangyayari dito mismo Cayman Mile Road at gusto naming maging bahagi ka nito. Naghahanap kami masigasig at malikhaing tagalikha nilalaman mula komunidad Filipino gustong tumulong.
Yes, him look good, man. Him look nice. Him look nice and fresh. And, I didn't have to pay for that. Well, I do pay for it, but not in the traditional sense of the word. The application fees is the payment that I'm getting. Yes, sir. You'll take that. All right. Today's the 15th. Today is the deadline for the Infrastructure Recognition Awards. So if you've not yet gotten your applications in, today is the day. Complete those applications, submit it. Here's a word from a few sponsors, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Hallelujah.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings.
It's our lifelines connecting East End to West Bay, Cayman to Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands to the world.
It established the route to get our children to school, keep our hospitals powered, and support our businesses every day.
Through hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance, people make that happen.
From the early pioneers who paved the first paths and laid the first pipes,
to the innovators who modernize water, energy, telecoms, ports, and our airport.
They're the quiet hands that build resilience.
And the vision that keeps Cayman going strong.
Now it's our turn to recognize them. Know someone who built, maintained, or improved the Cayman Islands we love?
Nominate them today at gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate Today.
The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage is pleased to announce that the nominations for the 2026 National Recognition Awards are now open. Nominate individuals and groups who played a key role in developing the Cayman Islands' physical infrastructure. The categories include landmark leaders, infrastructure innovators, and the builders of Cayman. Visit gov.ky/YSCH. Click on the Nominate button to make a nomination. Here is a step-by-step guide to fill out the form. Before starting, please read the instructions, the award categories, and the eligibility criteria. Step 1. Enter your personal information and select the award category for the person or group you are nominating. Click Yes to confirm that your nominee meets the criteria. Step 2. Enter the nominee's full name, date of birth, and district. Indicate their current status, whether living or deceased, and ensure you have the current contact information for your nominee and their next of kin. Fill out the submission detail and provide any supporting documents and a reference to support your nomination. Step 3. Review your submission and make any changes by clicking the previous button. When you are ready, confirm and agree to the terms and click Submit Form to make your nomination. A thank you notice will confirm that the nomination was received, and a copy of the application will be sent to your email. Your nomination will be reviewed and considered by the National Recognition Awards Committee, and only successful nominees will be contacted and recognized at next year's National Heroes Day ceremony. The deadline to make a nomination is October 15. Remember, you can submit multiple nominations or browse our frequently asked questions by visiting the National Recognition Awards tab at gov.ky/YSCH. We look forward to receiving your nomination.
The Fall Labour Force Survey and Quality of Life Survey conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office (ESO) started on Sunday, September 28th. The Labour Force Survey seeks to collect data on the employed and unemployed persons in the Cayman Islands, as well as those who are not in the labour force. The Quality of Life Survey seeks to gather information on life satisfaction, sense of well-being, financial security, economic outlook, social inclusion, sense of belonging to the local community, and perceived health. Trained interviewers, with ESO ID cards, will visit randomly selected households. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the Statistics Act. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from Freedom of Information requests. For more details, please call the ESO hotline at 516-3329, that is, 516-3329,